Chapter 2970. Humans were not saints. Although Tao ancestor star-defying was from the third planet, he was not a saint. Although Zhang Daoling and the elderly lord were helpless, they could understand his actions. After all, humans were selfish. Tao ancestor star-defying informed the other 9 strongest masters of the secondary universes that they had all refined the energy of the sovereign's origin. As a result, the energy of the sovereign's origin was gone. There were only 9 balls left. One was in Yi Qinghan's hands, and the other 8 were hidden in the 8 cauldrons. Even if they knew where they were, they would not be able to get their hands on them. This was because the third planet was located in a star system that could not be flown at all. The 2 sage-like old men under the 9 bronze mirrors quietly watched the storm brewing in the 3 secondary universes. Everything was calm before the storm, and they broke out in cold sweat for Yi Qinghan. Go and represent the third planet to help Yi Qinghan. If you really can't do it, ask him to give up on Crazed Mansion and bring him back. As long as he can refine the sovereign's origin, he can also become a saint and become one of the guardians of the third planet, the elderly lord said calmly. Zhang Daoling bowed slightly in a disciple's manner and then retreated. There was also a sage-level existence hidden in the ancient immortal secondary universe. Even the battle between Crazed Mansion and Tao ancestors star-defying had not aroused his interest. After all, they were in different circles and he was not interested in these worldly affairs. However, the appearance of a new sovereign's origin had piqued this sage's interest. Sages had no desires, but this was not absolute. It depended on what the temptation was. No one could resist the temptation of the sovereign's origin. If Yi Qinghan had not grown up with the sovereign's origin, he would have definitely snatched it and refined it without hesitation. Sage Mountain, where the secondary universes of the sages were located. Now that it had merged with the ancient immortal world, this great sage had not been born. However, he had been born this year. The profound star sage had been dormant for countless years. Now that he had awakened, he looked like a mortal. He had already become a mortal, and was just 1 step away from becoming a sovereign. He was a sage-level existence on the third planet. Most importantly, his life force was still very strong, unlike the human emperor, who had aged under the third planet. Time passed very slowly on the third planet, but it consumed a lot of life force. If there were no more rulers, even the human emperors would die of old age. Even if they didn't use their magic power all year round, they wouldn't be able to escape this fate. The star-profound sage was different. He was within the rules of Dharma and Logos, and even after countless years, his life force remained the same. Sage Mountain, Sage Hall. This was done according to the custom of the third planet. This Xian great sage still revered the original universe and the third planet. He always thought that the third planet was superior to others, so he called himself a sage. This place looked very small, but it was actually a paradise. It was like a perfect little universe that operated properly. There were also many experts inside, all of whom were the Xian great sage's disciples and heirs. There weren't many progenitors, but there were still 2. The Xian great sage listened to his heir's report and learned that a new sovereign energy had appeared, but he didn't show much emotion. After all, he had also refined sovereign energy before. Even if a new sovereign energy source appeared, even if he refined it, it might not allow him to become a sovereign. The chances were very small. Who sent the news? A new sovereign energy source hasn't appeared for many years. The Xian great sage looked to be in his 50s, and even though he looked like a mortal, he still suppressed the progenitors so much that they didn't dare to raise their heads. Replying to the sage, the news came from Tao ancestor Star Defiance. However, according to this disciple's information, he didn't just inform the Sage Mountain, he also informed the other sages. Is this person trying to disrupt the current situation? A progenitor who looked to be in his 30s knelt on one knee and respectfully said. The Xian great sage smiled gently. Who would have thought that someone like him had actually transcended the progenitor realm and was only below a sovereign? Humans are not sages, so how can they know the heart of a sage? At our level, who hasn't refined a sovereign energy source? If one could become a sovereign just by refining the sovereign energy source, wouldn't the world fall into chaos? The Xian great sage smiled. Then, How should we deal with Yi Qinghan? His crazed manor is located in the secondary realm where Sage Mountain is located. The pavilion closest to the water enjoys the moonlight first. Shouldn't we strike first to gain the upper hand? After all, sovereign energy sources are extremely rare. If we don't get it this time, we won't have another chance. The middle-aged progenitor immediately bowed. The Xian great sage pondered for a moment, then shook his head and said calmly, "Starherder, there's no need to disturb him. If he wanted to refine sovereign energy, he would have done so long ago and become a sage like us. However, he didn't. It seems he has other opinions. There's no harm in summoning him. I want to meet this rare progenitor and discuss the sovereign realm." That Star Herder Ancestor Realm expert was taken aback. Even Dao Ancestor, this kind of Ancestor Realm expert, had no chance to meet the sage. Yi Qinghan was merely an Ancestor Realm expert who had just emerged. Even if his cultivation was passable, he should not be involved in the circle of the sage. This feeling was very similar to someone who had suddenly become rich overnight and had hundreds of millions in assets, only to be summoned by the richest man in the country. No wonder the Starherder progenitor was surprised. "I've been feeling uneasy lately. I keep having the feeling that something out of the ordinary is about to happen. Now that the secondary realms have formed, no one knows whether or not a sovereign will be born. There will definitely be one. This legend has been around ever since the great sage Yuzun established the third planet and severed the secondary universes from the original universe. Perhaps it really is different in this era." The Xian great sage seemed to be quite open-minded. He didn't act as Dao Ancestor Stardefiance had expected and fight over the sovereign energy source as soon as he learned that it had been born. As expected, humans were not sages. No one knew what sages were thinking. Judging others by one's own standards was laughable. The Starherder progenitor didn't dare to say anything else. The Xian great sage fetched a brush, ink, paper, and inkstone, then waved his hand and wrote 4 words. "Let's talk about the sage." Dragons flew and phoenixes danced with an imposing aura. The 4 words seemed to fly out of the sky and take human form. The might of the sage instantly manifested. The progenitor realm couldn't compare. When you see him, don't speak nonsense, don't be arrogant, and don't be presumptuous. He will come to see me. The Xian great sage said faintly. The Starherder progenitor realm bowed and received the decree with both hands. Although it was only 4 words, it was heavier than the stars. It was a heavenly decree that only the sage would dare to blaspheme. A few months later, the Starherder progenitor realm appeared outside the heaven-suppressing palace. Just as the Xian great sage said, it was extremely low-key. After being notified, Yi Qinghan personally welcomed it. The heavenly decree was opened. The 4 words were soul-stirring. "My sage would like to invite the palace lord over to talk about the sage. Please give me some face." The Starherder progenitor realm bowed slightly, giving Yi Qinghan enough face. Sovereign Yi still had the appearance of a divine bird. He shrunk his head and looked at the Starherder progenitor realm. He said with a wretched expression, "Boss, they don't come with good intentions." Yi Qinghan looked at the 4 words. It was righteous and full of vigor. It didn't seem to have any evil qi or desire. It was purely a discussion of Dao. The other party was a sage, which meant that they were at the same level as Zhang Daoling. If he didn't go when the other party summoned him, it would be too disrespectful. It wasn't good to refuse, but it was even worse to not refuse. Chapter 2971. Yi Qinghan could tell that the Star Shepherd Ancestor Realm was a little unhappy about the Divine Bird's reminder. After pondering for a moment, he said faintly, "Divine Bird, don't use the hearts of mortals to judge the sage. Since the sage has summoned me, it means that he thinks highly of me." Obviously, Yi Qinghan had agreed to the summons because he had no reason or strength to refuse the summons of a sage. The Star Shepherd Ancestor Realm looked much better after receiving Yi Qinghan's official answer. At least Yi Qinghan did not look down on the sage. He did not know that Yi Qinghan had met the sage of the third planet before, so he knew what kind of existence the sage was. Otherwise, Yi Qinghan might not have met the great sage of Xian Star. Fellow Taoist Star Shepherd, can you enter the crazy mansion and wait for a while? I'll explain some things and then follow you to the Sage Mountain. Yi Qinghan cupped his fists and asked. The Star Shepherd Ancestor Realm immediately bowed and replied, Sure, then I'll have to trouble you, Mansion Master Yi. Yi Qinghan led the Star Shepherd Ancestor Realm into the crazy mansion and was received by Emperor Yi. Then he left the hall. On Sky-Gazing Peak, Yi Qinghan met Jian Chenxue alone. He waved his hand and forcibly took out Supreme Yi. He went straight to the point and said, Chenxue, I'll leave Supreme Yi to you. Take my life token. If my life token is broken, go directly to Senior Yen Emperor and ask him to refine the divine bird. Fuck. Supreme Yi and Jian Chenxue gasped at the same time. This decision had come too suddenly. Yi Qinghan looked at Supreme Yi, shook his head slightly, and said in a low voice, Divine bird, it's not that I don't want to protect you. If I don't die, no one will be able to refine you. However, if I die, no one will be able to protect you. Instead of being refined by others, it's better to benefit one of our own. Do you understand? Boss, is it bad if we don't go? Supreme Yi said with a sad face. Yi Qinghan gave a wry smile. If he were to refuse the sage's summons just like that, he would have to have the strength to do so. Only if I refine you. I have the power of the sage and sage. Even if the heavenly emperor himself comes, I can see him if I want to. But the question is, can I refine you? Yi Qinghan asked in a low voice. It was impossible for the Flame Emperor to refine the 9-colored Brahma heart. It was also impossible for Yi Qinghan to refine Sovereign Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan wanted to struggle until the last step. Yi Qinghan comforted him. I've read the sage's words. He doesn't seem like someone who would kill me. I'm not on the same level as him. If he wanted to kill me, he wouldn't have needed to summon me. Supreme Being Yi sat on Jian Chenxue's shoulder dispiritedly. He wasn't a pure ruler's energy source. He was also a highly intelligent existence with thoughts, flesh, and blood. He didn't want to die, nor did he want to be refined. It was also because Supreme Being Yi had flesh, blood, and emotions that Yi Qinghan didn't refine him. Divine Bird, I'm doing my best to save you. Don't worry. As long as I'm alive, no one can refine you. Yi Qinghan said firmly. I'm going to see the sage in hopes of getting some useful information. I'm doing my best. What are you afraid of? Supreme Yi took a deep breath and transformed into a human. He nodded solemnly, then relaxed his mind and pretended to be relaxed as he said, Don't worry, boss. If you die, I'll avenge you. Young Mistress Chenxue can refine me. I won't let the goodies go to outsiders. Yi Qinghan smiled. The Flame Emperor wasn't an outsider. It was mainly because his talent made it easier for him to become a ruler. If the Flame Emperor became a ruler, he could be revived even if he died. Who? Yi Qinghan sighed and signaled Jian Chenxue with his eyes. Jian Chenxue and Yi Qinghan had a tacit understanding. The two looked at each other and nodded. I'm leaving. Yi Qinghan left the Sky-Gazing Mountain and turned into a divine eagle. He appeared outside of the Heaven-Suppressing Palace's main palace. The Star Shepherd Ancestor Realm was waiting for him. When he saw Yi Qinghan, he immediately put down his teacup and stood up with a smile. Manor Lord Yi, are you done? The Star Shepherd Ancestor Realm is waiting. Let's go. Yi Qinghan gestured. The two left the Heaven-Suppressing Palace side by side and headed north at a fast speed. They chatted along the way and Yi Qinghan's understanding of the secondary universe grew deeper. He also knew that there were 9 sages in the secondary universe. Many of them died in the battle with the sages of the third planet and the ancient godly spirits for the sake of the original universe. The Star Shepherd Ancestor Realm was very frank. He sneered at the so-called rulers. He didn't believe that anyone could rule over everything. If such a person existed, what was the point of others? Yi Qinghan was silent for a while after hearing the Star Shepherd Ancestor Realm's words. Maybe they exist, maybe they don't. But since there is a ruler's energy source, maybe there really is a ruler. Yi Qinghan thought for a long time and said with a smile. The Star Shepherd Ancestor Realm thought for a while and nodded. That's true. Not seeing them doesn't mean they don't exist. Just like Manor Lord Yi, Not seeing the sages doesn't mean they don't exist. I'm just a frog at the bottom of a well. Yi Qinghan smiled and replied, to be honest, I've actually met a sage before. He's a sage from the third planet, and I even received a small favor from him. This was something the Star Shepherd Ancestor realm could easily find out. After all, it was Sage Zhang Daoling who brought them back to the ancient immortal world when Dao ancestors started defying and the others stopped them. It was inappropriate to hide something that everyone knew. The Star Shepherd Ancestor realm was very satisfied with Yi Qinghan's honesty. Manor Lord Yi, there aren't many progenitors like you left. If there's a chance, I'd like to pursue the mysteries of the universe with you. Our understanding of the universe is still too little, like a grain of sand in the ocean. The Star Shepherd Ancestor realm looked up into the distance. They had traveled for 7 or 8 days straight. In the past, they would have been able to travel through the ancient immortal world universe, but now they had only just touched the Sage Mountains territory. Yi Qinghan looked into the distance. Purple qi came from the east and frost sprinkled down, but there was a majesty rarely seen in the secondary universe. It was incomparably shocking. Upon entering the territory of the Sage Mountain, one would find that the Dharma and Logos space here was much more powerful than the other secondary universes. It was like a holy land suddenly appearing in a plane, out of place. This is where the Sage Mountain is located. It was originally called the Sage Secondary Universe. There are several progenitors here, but none of them are direct descendants of the Sage Mountain. The Star Shepherd Ancestor realm gestured with his hand. Please come in, Manor Lord Yi. I've lived for so many years, but this is the first time he's seen a foreign progenitor, and also the first time he's taken the initiative to summon one. Yi Qinghan raised his eyebrows and bowed slightly. Fellow Star Shepherd, does the sage have any other preferences or dislikes? I'm worried that if I offend the sage... The Star Shepherd Ancestor realm frowned slightly and thought for a moment before replying, I've never seen the sage angry since I was born. The sage is really not someone we can fathom. As long as you don't go overboard, I'm sure the sage won't fuss with us juniors. Yi Qinghan took a deep breath. He didn't understand the sages, much less the secondary sages. However, there was one thing he was certain of. He couldn't tell the other sages that he came from the third planet. Otherwise, even 10 lives wouldn't be enough. Whoosh! The two figures flashed and shifted continuously until they appeared at the foot of the Sage Mountain. They then descended and walked up the mountain. The Sage Mountain was surrounded by 18 peaks. The main peak was majestic and grand, shrouded in purple qi. Fate gathered and the aura of the sage pervaded the air. It was extraordinary. This was not the third planet, where the sage really had unparalleled power in the progenitor realm. Tap tap tap, the two walked all the way. The main peak was filled with direct descendants of the Sage Mountain. There were as many experts as there were clouds. This place was in no way inferior to the crazed manor, especially the upper echelons. However, the middle echelons were definitely not as strong as the crazed manor. Chapter 2972. Sage Mountain was high and mighty, and those who were not direct descendants of Sage Mountain were not allowed to enter. Even Dao ancestor Star Defiance had failed several times to visit and meet the sage. The circle was different, and the sage was not willing to meet progenitors at all. Many progenitors did not even know of the existence of sage-level characters. The sage pursued dominion, while progenitors pursued benefits and resources. The two levels pursued different things, so there was naturally nothing to talk about. However, Yi Qinghan had obtained the Dominion origin energy but did not refine it, which surprised the profound Star Sage, so he specially summoned him. To other progenitors, this was an honor, but to Yi Qinghan, this meeting was a risk, so he left a way out and did not bring Sovereign Yi along. Tap tap tap. They kept a low profile all the way to the peak of Sage Mountain. Sage Mountain was a huge Holy Land dojo, as big as an independent universe. There were even more experts here, all of whom were slowly cultivated by the profound Star Sage in case of emergency. To be vigilant in times of peace, the Star Profound Sages indeed possessed the talents of their predecessors. The Sage Hall was not in an independent universe, but within the Sage Dojo. There were several majestic mountains of chaos, where order and dharma and logos coexisted. Progenitors could not even fly here and had to walk. The sage waved his hand, turning the void into reality and condensing clouds into earth. There were even solid lightning in some places, as if guarding some secrets. Yi Qinghan looked at the sage dojo, which was much bigger than Skygazing Peak. The dharma and order contained here were stronger and more formal. They were definitely not on the same level. No wonder it was said that different circles would come into contact with different things. In the past, the sage did not care about the secular world, but now it seemed that what he pursued was indeed different. The sage's heart was not willing to intervene in the secular world, but he also did not care about its affairs and allowed it to develop. He was not even interested in the heavenly medicines of other secondary universes, otherwise there would be many progenitors here. Manor Lord Yi, please come with me. The star herder progenitor gestured with his hand. Yi Qinghan looked at the sage dojo, which was covered in chaos and extremely close to the aura of the seeking heaven domain. He could not help but take a deep breath and think to himself, the profound star sage's goal is clear. He wants to restore the seeking heaven domain and derive the essence of the universe. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan subconsciously followed the star shepherd ancestor realm to the sage hall in the sage training ground. All of you can leave. Enter the sage hall again if you don't have a summon. The star herder ancestor waved his hand to indicate those slaves and said calmly. The servants quickly retreated, and only Yi Qinghan and the star shepherd ancestor realm remained. The hall was incomparably majestic, and the sage's throne was filled with majesty. Dragons, tigers, and phoenixes intertwined, and there was also a huge bronze mirror at the top. Inside, there were changes in all things in the world, and there were even changes in the positions of stars. Divine might surged. This bronze mirror was definitely a primordial divine artifact, but Yi Qinghan did not know what it could do, much less how to use it. Lord Sage Yi Qinghan of the Crazy Manor is here for an audience. The star herder progenitor bowed like a disciple and respectfully said to the bronze mirror above the throne. Whoosh! The bronze mirror flashed with divine light, and an expert walked out from the bronze mirror. He had white hair and a ruddy complexion, giving off an indescribable immortal aura. Hiss! Yi Qinghan sucked in a breath of cold air and immediately bowed with cupped fists. Yi Qinghan of the Crazy Manor greets the sage. Ha! The star herder sage laughed heartily and slowly sat on the throne. He stretched out his hand and gestured. Sit down, there's no need to stand on ceremony. This old man is very curious as to who actually obtained the ruler's energy source but did not refine it. Now that I've met you, you are indeed a dragon among men. This old man is impressed. Yi Qinghan looked at the star herder progenitor realm, then bowed and retreated. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan did not restrain himself and bowed slightly. He then sat on the chair on the right and cupped his fists. Lord Sage, I wonder what instructions you have for this junior? There's no need for instructions. You are not my disciple, nor are you my follower, so there's no need for instructions. I called you here today to see your understanding of the sage, as well as your view of the universe and the ruler. The star herder sage went straight to the point and asked directly. Yi Qinghan's eyebrows twitched. He did not expect this great sage to call him here just to ask about these things. Lord Sage, you think too highly of this junior. I know nothing about the sage's power, and I only have a superficial understanding of the universe, let alone the illusory realm of the ruler. Yi Qinghan said truthfully. The star herder sage looked at Yi Qinghan in astonishment and asked curiously, then why did you obtain the ruler's energy but not refine it? Yi Qinghan smiled bitterly, stood up, and said truthfully, because that energy source is not just a pure energy source. It has flesh, blood, and emotions. It is a godly pet that has accompanied me as I grew up. How could this junior disregard emotions for a so-called realm? Ha! The star herder sage laughed and clapped his hands. This old man thought that your state of mind had surpassed the sage's, that you would not be happy with material gains or sad for yourself. It turns out that you were bound by emotions, which is why you did not refine it. This old man thought too much. Yi Qinghan cupped his fists and said, the sage thinks too highly of this junior. How can this junior state of mind be compared to the sages? If you don't refine the ruler's energy source, aren't you afraid that the sage will take it away? The star herder sage gestured for Yi Qinghan to sit down and then asked again. Even plants have emotions. This junior is a human, so naturally, I have emotions. I will do my best to protect it. If I can't, there's nothing I can do. As long as I have a clear conscience, it's fine. Yi Qinghan sat down and said truthfully. The star herder sage nodded and sighed. You are the ancestor with the calmest state of mind that this old man has ever seen. In my opinion, all the sages, including the sages of the third planet, are not qualified to become rulers. If they could become rulers, we would have already become rulers. You young people have a chance. Yi Qinghan had not expected this sage to be so open-minded. He could not help but admire him. The state of mind of a sage and a Tao ancestor were indeed different. Little friend Yi, can you let me see your spirit pet? Don't worry, this old man is not a person who bullies the weak. Naturally, I will not refine your spirit pet. I just want to see what a living ruler's energy source looks like. The star herder sage looked at Yi Qinghan expectantly and asked. Yi Qinghan was shocked. It was impossible for him to give Supreme Yi to others. Jian Chenxue and Emperor Yi were the limit. If he gave Supreme Yi to others, he might as well refine it himself. Lord Sage, this junior has already hidden the spirit pet. I'm sorry. It's not that this junior doesn't trust you, Lord Sage, but it's important to be wary of others. I hope the sage can understand, Yi Qinghan said bluntly. The star herder sage was not angry. It was just the origin of the ruler's energy. It did not matter whether he saw it or not. However, other sages were different. Not everyone was like him, who did not feel joy or sorrow. It's okay. You and I hit it off at first sight. This old man will take you around. Perhaps it will be beneficial for you. You might be able to advance to the sage realm without refining the ruler's energy. The star herder sage's wise eyes flickered as he gestured with his hand. Yi Qinghan looked grateful. He cupped his fists and said, "Thank you, Lord Sage." Chapter 2973. If the sage wanted to kill someone, even if Yi Qinghan left now, he would still die. Yi Qinghan was very open-minded. There was no need to worry unnecessarily. If he wanted to die, he would hang himself. If he did not die, he would live 1,000 years. Whoosh! The sage took the initiative to show his goodwill. He led Yi Qinghan into the sage training hall and brought him to a place filled with lightning. This place was very similar to the Seeking Heaven domain. Little friend Yi, what is the universe in your eyes? The sage looked at Yi Qinghan and asked lightly. Yi Qinghan frowned and pondered. The universe gave him a very simple understanding. It was vast and boundless. Even as a progenitor, he felt that there were too many mysteries in the universe that could not be explained, let alone mortals. Sage, I think the universe is a box. It is very big, so big that it is impossible to understand. There are countless nets inside, representing different laws and logos of order. These laws and logos of order restrict people or so-called cultivators. When you see through all the laws and logos of order, you might be able to break out of this box and instantly appear outside the box. You might be able to see everything inside the box as it operates. That might be the so-called master. Yi Qinghan thought for a long time and said in a low voice, "Break out of the box?" The profound star sage smiled and said, "Comparing the universe to a box is very novel. Unfortunately, this box is a little big. If you want to break out of the box, I'm afraid you won't be able to walk." Yi Qinghan looked at the sage training hall. It was like a perfect little universe. There were nebulae, galaxies, stars, and even evolved black holes and cracks. It was just that the profound star sage had reduced its power countless times. This was a model of the original universe. He wanted to use this model to explore the mysteries of the universe. The laws and logos of order intertwined, and their power was endless. It was like a tangled mess that could not be cut and sorted out. To be able to sort out all the mess meant that all the laws and orders in the universe had been cleared. Only then could one control this small universe. Not to mention the entire primal universe, even for this small universe, It would take more than a day or two to understand all the laws and orders and be proficient in using them. Yi Qinghan walked in this small universe for a long time and pondered for a long time. He was like a bystander, watching the changes of all things in this small universe. In this small universe, Xian Xing Sage was the master. He could control life and death, give birth to new creatures, and kill powerful creatures. However, he couldn't revive powerful creatures that were already dead through a specific order. With each day that he walked, Yi Qinghan understood the power of the sage a little more. The sage borrowed the power of the master and controlled the laws and logos of order. They could instantly split all the laws and logos of order around the progenitor realm, reducing the progenitor realm to mere mortals. Of course, this did not include those who went against the 5 elements. This was because the laws and logos of the 5 elements were reversed. Those who did not go against the heavens would not be able to dissipate the reversed laws and logos of order. The profound star sage even derived the power of the sage in front of Yi Qinghan. This was different from the progenitor realm's mystic arts and powers of order. It was a very pure new power, the power of the master. It was just that they only understood the surface of the master, but they were still stronger than the progenitor realm. If the power system was reclassified from the highest to the lowest, then it would be the master who dominated everything. Then it would be the sage and the progenitor realm. These 2 levels could only perceive the surface of the universe. The rest were mere mortals, very ordinary people. They could not cause any waves in the universe. Yi Qinghan looked at the profound star sage's manipulation of the master's power, but he could not reverse the order. Suddenly Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed, he bowed and asked, "May I ask if Lord Sage can grant me some of the master's power? If I can reverse the laws and logos of the master's power, I can create this power. Why would I need to refine sovereign Yi?" Yi Qinghan was excited. At the level of the sage, as long as he was not surrounded, he would be able to kill even gods. The profound star sage waved his hand and controlled a ball of energy. He said calmly, "This power is very strong. You better not do anything rash, or once it explodes, your heaven-suppressing palace will be razed to the ground." Yi Qinghan was overjoyed. He did not expect the sage to be so easy to talk to. "Thank you, sage. I will repay your kindness in the future." Yi Qinghan received the ball of energy with both hands. It did not spread out as it was controlled by the profound star sage. As long as it was not activated, it would not explode. What? The profound star sage turned and walked towards the sage palace. He said calmly, "No need to be so courteous. It is fate that brought us together. Consider it my compensation for wasting your time." Yi Qinghan was impressed by the sage's magnanimity. What? Yi Qinghan quickly followed. He stood on top of the sage mountain, facing the cold wind as his battle robe fluttered. What? The profound star sage waved his hand and the entrance to the ancient immortal subworld and Qiutian realm appeared in the sky. Many unfamiliar ancestor realm cultivators entered. Their cultivation levels were not weak. "Little friend Yi, you are in endless trouble. The other sages will not be as easy to talk to as I am. If you don't throw out the master's power, it will be a bomb that will blow you and your friends to smithereens," the profound star sage calmly reminded. "As long as the sages don't come, I don't care how many ancestor realm cultivators there are," Yi Qinghan said firmly as he held the energy ball that Xing Xian had given him in his bosom. "The sages are high and mighty. They usually won't attack you personally. Their disciples and descendants will be enough for you to suffer." The profound star sage smiled faintly and gestured with his hand. "Look, the ancestor realm cultivator who just entered is Sage Feng Yu's eldest direct disciple, the Lord Sentinel. His cultivation level is not inferior to a Dao ancestor." Yi Qinghan stared at the mirror image in the sky, a murderous intent flashing in his eyes. The profound star sage shook his head and closed the mirror image in the sky. "When you can't take it anymore, tell them that the master's power source has been handed over to me. No matter what, this old face of mine still has some face," the profound star sage said calmly. Yi Qinghan looked at the profound star sage in shock. He did not understand why he was helping him take the blame. "Lord Sage, this junior will not cause trouble for you. Yi Qinghan did not dare to take advantage of the situation and throw the blame to the profound star sage. Regardless of whether the other party was willing or not, even if he was willing, he would be embarrassed. It's fine. You can't handle this kind of thing. When you enter the sage level and control the power of the sage, just do me a small favor. The profound star sage put his hands behind his back and did not even turn his head. He said majestically, "In the early stages, you will bear it yourself. The sages will not interfere. These ancestor realm cultivators will be your stepping stones." "Sage, I wonder what I can help you with? What if I can't do it?" Yi Qinghan asked in shock. The profound star sage smiled and replied with certainty, "This old one believes in you. For a little spirit pet, you actually came to die. I believe I did not misjudge you." Chapter 2974. Yi Qinghan's words of, "I believe in you," had gained his approval. The dark star sage allowed Yi Qinghan to leave alone. He was not prepared to help him deal with the progenitor. The circle was different. Sages disdained to attack the progenitor. If a sage really attacked Yi Qinghan, the dark star sage might help, but he might not. This was because once such existences fought, it was easy for casualties to occur, and they would die very thoroughly. Yi Qinghan bowed and retreated from the sage palace. Regardless of whether the profound star sage would attack the other great sages, the fact that he was willing to let Yi Qinghan push the blame of the sovereign energy source to him was enough for Yi Qinghan to repay him for a lifetime. Yi Qinghan was very content in this life. At the crucial moment, there would always be someone to help him. In the early stages, there was the help of the 9 Serenities Master. In the middle stages, there was the help of Lord Fazhen. In the later stages, there was the help of Zhang Fan and Emperor Liang. Now that the Dark Star Sage had spoken out to protect him, he had no regrets in this life. Whoosh! Whoosh! Yi Qinghan leaped into the air, feeling quite carefree. With the support of a great sage, he dared to overturn the heavens. Whoosh! The void reversed, and the mountains and rivers were beautiful. Yi Qinghan kept moving, shuttling through the mountains. In an instant he was on a mountain, and various large tribes flashed past. Roared! Yi Qinghan shuttled through the air, his heroic spirit soaring to the sky, and he roared at the sky. Roar! At this moment, a sword flashed past Yi Qinghan's neck. Yi Qinghan dodged almost instinctively. His thumb and index finger pinched, and he grabbed the back of the sword. Their eyes met, and in an instant, time and space stopped. His black hair fluttered, and it was extremely thrilling. He did not recognize it at all. It was a very unfamiliar progenitor. However, his cultivation techniques were definitely not from the progenitor near the ancient immortal world. Buzz! That person's wrist shook, and sword qi wreaked havoc, forcing Yi Qinghan to let go. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan flew back 1,000 feet. With a wave of his hand, he grabbed the progenitor realm expert once more. He frowned as he looked at this unfamiliar progenitor realm expert. His eyes narrowed as killing intent flashed. Yi Qinghan, hand over the sovereign's essence energy to this ancestor, and I can spare your life today, the expert said coldly. Yi Qinghan sneered. Today, he had almost failed miserably. This person had not emitted any aura just now. He should have been lying in ambush nearby for a long time. His assassination technique was very powerful and definitely not inferior to Yan Yunbei's. However, compared to Yan Yunbei's assassination technique, this person's ancestor realm cultivation base was only slightly stronger than Yan Yunbei's. However, if this person thought that he could kill Yi Qinghan by assassinating him, that person would be too naive. What are you relying on? Yi Qinghan asked with a sneer. With the Li perishing sword in my hand. That person replied coldly. Yi Qinghan snorted disdainfully. He stabbed his blade into the mountaintop and said coldly, "Trash like you dares to come out and fight for treasures? I'll suppress you to the half-ancestor realm. There are many half-ancestors in my crazy mansion who can kill you. You're not qualified to be called an ancestor. It seems that your secondary universe really has no one." That person was furious. The Li perishing sword shook and sword qi shot out. Make your move. I'll give you a chance to make your move. Yi Qinghan gestured with his hand. Whoosh, whoosh. Although the progenitor realm expert's strength was not great, his assassination technique was indeed good. His figure flashed and disappeared from Yi Qinghan's sight. Yi Qinghan closed his eyes and raised his hands, causing the laws and principles of order in the surroundings to be reversed. In an instant, the area within a radius of 15 kilometers became a domain. There was no need for the domain to be too large. This sort of progenitor could not be considered outstanding amongst his peers, and it was definitely a coincidence that he could be called progenitor. 15 kilometers was enough for Yi Qinghan to react. Sure enough, the moment the perishing progenitor realm expert appeared in Yi Qinghan's domain, his figure appeared. His sword was very fast and stabbed at Yi Qinghan's back. In the blink of an eye, the sword appeared less than 2 meters behind Yi Qinghan. It seemed that Yi Qinghan did not react, but at that moment he suddenly turned around and the sword pierced through his waist. His iron fist was even faster and directly hit the heart. The inverse law profound art broke through the progenitor realm expert's defense. When the progenitor crashed into Yi Qinghan's chest, his heart was shattered. From the outside he didn't seem to be injured, but his internal organs had been shattered, and his limbs and bones were in disarray. Not a single bit of the laws and principles of order remained in his body, and his ancestral blood had been crippled. His physical body was dead. Yi Qinghan reached out and wrapped his arm around the progenitor realm expert's neck. He whispered, "People like you should stay in the cave and enjoy life. Don't come out and embarrass yourself." Boom. Yi Qinghan's right fist moved away from the progenitor realm expert's chest and slammed into his temple, killing the progenitor realm expert's soul without giving him a chance to recover. 2 punches had severed the progenitor realm expert's vitality. It was not that the progenitor realm expert could not be killed, but it depended on the person doing the killing. If it was a half-ancestor, they would not be able to kill him, but Yi Qinghan was not a half-ancestor. The progenitor realm expert's corpse went limp. Even in death, he did not know his name. Boom. Yi Qinghan waved his hand and flung the corpse away, only taking away the progenitor ring and progenitor sword. No matter how rotten they should be enough for a half-ancestor. In the distance, there were people watching, and there was more than one person. They had seen Yi Qinghan kill a progenitor realm expert with 2 punches. Even though it was unorthodox, it was still very terrifying. Yi Qinghan looked around coldly with disdain. He had never been afraid of anyone in the progenitor realm. When he finished studying the power order given to him by the profound star sage, even the sage might not be able to kill him. If you want to make a move, hurry up. When I return to the crazed manor, you people might not even be able to meet me. Yi Qinghan reminded coldly. Different levels and different circles. Yi Qinghan did not think that he was in the same circle as them, so he did not care about the progenitor realm. At this moment, a sparkling light appeared in the sky. In an instant, the sky darkened. Countless dark moon halos enveloped Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan was shocked. It was impossible for him not to recognize the dark moon halos. It was something from the Dark Moon clan. This dark moon halos were obviously not ordinary. Someone from the Dark Moon clan? Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed as he saw a middle-aged expert appear in front of him. He was at the peak of the half-ancestor realm and could step into the progenitor realm at any time. Most importantly, he was very strong. However, looking at his power system, it should not be the power system of the ancient immortal world. You actually know about the Dark Moon clan. It seems that there are still people from my clan who survived. The newcomer was Anyue Tianqin, the first crown prince of the Dark Moon clan. After the Dark Moon clan's ancestor was killed by the first-class Hall, he fled. He did not expect that when he returned, he was already at the peak of the half-ancestor realm. Yi Qinghan frowned and asked, "I have a good relationship with the Dark Moon clan. Are you going to help the people from the other secondary universes and become my enemy?" Anyue Tianqin waved his hand and the Dark Moon halos appeared in his hand. He said domineeringly, "I'm here to ask for something on behalf of my master. If you hand it over, I won't be your enemy." Yi Qinghan's mouth twitched. He groaned and said, "Are seriously ill. Let me treat you." Bush, 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 bush. Yi Qinghan's figure moved as fast as lightning. Countless afterimages appeared around Anue Tianchen. The dark moon halos in Anue Tianchen's hand cut through the void, leaving afterimages everywhere. They actually found Yi Qinghan's afterimages, but his speed was too slow. At least, it was very slow for Yi Qinghan. Slap. Boom. Yi Qinghan slapped Anue Tianchen's face and punched his chest. He waved his hand and grabbed the dark moon halos. No matter how hard the dark moon halos struggled, it could not escape from his palm. Yi Qinghan waved his hand and suppressed the Dark Moon clan's top expert. He said coldly, "If you were an ancestor, I might have given you some leeway. However, you are only at the peak of the half-ancestor realm. If it wasn't for Dark Dance, I would have killed you right now." Chapter 2975. Anue Tianchen was stunned as he watched Yi Qinghan snatch the ring of the Dark Moon. He couldn't understand it at all. Although he was a peak half-ancestor, he could really fight against an ancestor. However, in front of Yi Qinghan, he was as weak as a child. They weren't on the same level at all. "I'll give you a chance. Go to Crazy Mansion's Starfield and see Dark Moon Clan's Dark Dance. She will decide your future actions. If you continue to help the evildoer, don't blame me for being ruthless." Yi Qinghan waved his hand and put the ring of the Dark Moon into his sleeve. "I'll keep the ring of the Dark Moon for you first. Wait until you see Dark Dance." Starfield was the area guarded by Yi Qinghan. With Yi Qinghan there, this peak half-ancestor wouldn't be able to cause any big waves. Anue Tianchen took a deep breath and touched the burning handprint on his face. He glared at Yi Qinghan and then rushed towards Crazy Mansion. Yi Qinghan coldly swept his gaze in all directions. He clasped his fingers together and pushed them forward, causing the bones in his body to crackle. "Is there anyone else who wants to make a move? Since you dared to take the risk, you shouldn't be afraid to show your face, right?" Yi Qinghan pierced through the void and could even see where the ancestor and half-ancestor were hiding. They were all people from other secondary universes, but he didn't recognize any of them. His words shocked the world. No one made a move. However, some experts were waiting for an opportunity, waiting for Yi Qinghan to be injured. However, if they didn't attack together, no matter how strong the ancestor was, they wouldn't be able to injure Yi Qinghan. Even if the ancestor didn't make a move, they weren't willing to leave either. The first one to make a move was a rookie ancestor, and the second was a peak half-ancestor. The true top experts didn't think Yi Qinghan was scary. Yi Qinghan sneered. He was very disdainful of these experts from the secondary universes. They didn't even have the courage to make a move. They just wanted others to injure them and then take advantage of the situation. How could there be such a good thing? What? Yi Qinghan waved his hand to retrieve Zhongquang and turned to leave. He walked very slowly, but he did not let his guard down. The group of people shuttled through the wilderness with swords in hand. Whoosh! The figures were too fast and came in all shapes and sizes. Some of the half-martial ancestors were wandering around to attract Yi Qinghan's attention and give the other ancestor realm experts a chance to kill him. Yi Qinghan walked slowly and reached out to break a branch. There were many dense diamond-shaped leaves on it. Sha sha sha! Yi Qinghan shook his hand and all the leaves fell into his palm. Whoosh! The tree branch pierced through the void and directly pierced through the thigh of a half-martial ancestor. The half-martial ancestor fell to the ground, dripping with blood. However, the vitality of a half-martial ancestor was very tenacious. Yi Qinghan could not kill him with just a tree branch. At most, he would make it so that the half-martial ancestor would not be able to recover for a short period of time. Ant! Whoosh whoosh whoosh! Yi Qinghan snorted coldly. The leaves in his hand flew out in an orderly manner, attacking in all directions. Whoosh! 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 In an instant, at least a dozen people drew their swords and pierced through the oncoming leaves. Some half-martial ancestors didn't have the ability to block the attacks and were sent flying by Yi Qinghan. A thin wound appeared on their chests, and the wound almost reached their hearts. There were about 20 people, all of whom were insignificant characters from other secondary universes. Primordial Yin Yang did not come. Primordial yin-yang stirred up a storm and not only told the sage that Yi Qinghan had the energy source of the sovereign's energy, but also the ancestor realm experts from other secondary universes. They wanted to cut off Yi Qinghan's escape route and kill him with a borrowed knife. With so many secondary universes, one expert coming every day was enough to annoy Yi Qinghan to death. Moreover, there was more than one expert coming every day, and some of them were not afraid of death. Even someone from the Taigu Emperor realm had come. It was unknown who gave them the courage to come. Among these 20 people, there was no Sky Sentinel Lord mentioned by Sage Xian Xing. It seemed that these experts were very confident and wanted to appear at the end. Scram all of you. I don't want to start a massacre. It wasn't easy for all of you to reach this level of cultivation. You're all overlords. Why come here to throw away your lives? Yi Qinghan said coldly. Some people were unwilling and snorted coldly to show their firm attitude. Since they had come, how could they be scared away? Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed with impatience. Since some people wanted to die, there was no need to keep them alive. Boom! Yi Qinghan suddenly soared into the sky. With a wave of his hand, order gathered in all directions and crushed a powerful ancestor realm expert. Yi Qinghan had come knocking on that ancestor realm expert's door just because he let out a cold snort. He didn't even have the chance to escape. His flesh and blood exploded, his soul shattered into pieces, and his vigorous blood essence was directly refined. The multicolored snake and the god-devourer eagle appeared and swallowed him. If you don't want to leave, I'll send you to the afterlife. Bang bang bang. Yi Qinghan's figure flickered as he punched out more than 20 times in an instant, each punch shattering the stable laws and logos of order. Whether it was a half-martial ancestor, an immemorial emperor, or an ancestor, none of them could escape death. Roar! The multicolored snake and the god-devourer eagle traversed through time and space, devouring the heavily injured experts. The multicolored snake had been in the Taigu Emperor realm for a long time and had not been idle all these years. Now that it had officially stepped into the half-ancestor realm, it had continuously devoured the flesh and blood of the Taigu Emperor, half-ancestor, and ancestor realm experts, raising its cultivation to the limit of the half-ancestor realm. Whoosh whoosh. The start-whining vine extended countless vines, and its large-scale lethality was even more terrifying than the multicolored snake. If it entangled a Taigu emperor, he could forget about escaping. Screams rang out incessantly. If they did not listen, they would be courting death. Yi Qinghan was responsible for heavily injuring the experts, and the 3 godly pets were responsible for devouring them. Even the little golden crow could not bear the loneliness and began to devour the experts, while the extreme yang flame refined the Taigu Emperor. The venomous worms could instantly devour a Taigu Emperor realm expert. It was extremely cruel. Even the souls of those who were devoured by the venomous worms could not escape, let alone reincarnate in the future. Some of the Taigu emperors who were still in the periphery fled without looking back. As soon as they escaped, they began to slander Yi Qinghan's cruelty, saying that he was simply a demon who did all sorts of evil. He refined the Taigu Emperor, half-ancestor, and ancestor realm experts, not even sparing their souls. He cut off the path of the ancestor realm experts and was unpardonable and should be killed. However, a few months later, the various secondary universes were condemning Yi Qinghan. Many of the experts who did not know the truth and had dreams of becoming heroes all headed to the ancient immortal subworld, wanting to teach Yi Qinghan a lesson. At this moment, Yi Qinghan had already returned to the insane manor immortal nation. He did not head straight to the heaven-suppressing palace, but to the starry domain. At this time, Anyue Tianchen found in Wu and learned about Yi Qinghan, the insane manor and the Dark Moon race's struggle. He felt extremely guilty as he, as the first prince, did not contribute anything to his race. Instead, it was the outsider insane manor that saved his own people. Back then, Class 1 Hall killed my father. In order to cut off the Dark Moon race's hope, they wanted to kill me as well. I had no choice but to leave my people. I hoped that Class 1 Hall would not implicate my people. After escaping for dozens of years, It was Lord Liang who crafted a crude breathing apparatus for me and sent me to the Qiutian region. I survived for a few hundred years in the Qiutian region and almost died. However, I was saved by a half-ancestor from a secondary universe and became an ancestral slave. If it wasn't for the news that Yi Qinghan possessed the ruler's energy source and I volunteered to take it for myself, I'm afraid I wouldn't have the chance to return. Anyue Tianqin looked at Yi Qinghan's cold face and took the initiative to tell him everything. Chapter 2976. The dignified Dark Moon clan's crown prince was actually reduced to an ancestral slave. There were still restrictions in Dark Moon Sky Star's Sea of Consciousness, similar to a contract. He was still under the control of others. Yi Qinghan waved his hand and pressed on Dark Moon Sky Star's head. He said coldly, "Don't resist. I'll remove your contract." Yi Qinghan's powerful soul slowly entered Dark Moon Sky Star's Sea of Consciousness. The restrictions in the Sea of Consciousness were very complicated. If one wanted to break the restrictions without alerting an ancestor, one would have to quickly cut off the foundation of the restrictions. The restrictions in Dark Moon Sky Star's Sea of Consciousness were very complicated. Anyone who could set up such restrictions was definitely not an ordinary ancestor. The complex net-like restrictions were intertwined, controlling the soul to death. If the other party's ancestor realm wanted to kill an Yu Tianqin, it would only take a thought. However, this complex net-like restriction also had a foundation. Cutting off the foundation would cause the other net-like restrictions to lose control. However, there was more than one foundation in Dark Moon Sky Star's Sea of Consciousness. There were also two pseudo-foundations that were almost identical to the foundation. If others wanted to break the restriction, they would easily cut off the pseudo-foundations as if they were the foundation. Yi Qinghan used his spiritual consciousness to control all the nets in Dark Moon Sky Star's soul. Just in case, he wanted to cut off more than 80% of the nets in an instant. Yi Qinghan's soul was pushed to the pinnacle, and his eyes flashed with a sharp light. Then, he closed his eyes and unleashed a burst of power. With an unstoppable momentum, he sliced apart a large portion of the net, causing the Ancestor Realm contract to lose its effect. After Yi Qinghan severed most of the net restriction, he immediately reversed the Dharma and Logos, instantly reversing the entire contract restriction. The net restriction collapsed and disappeared without a trace. Dark Moon Sky Star was finally free. He was no longer an ancestral slave. "Thank you, Headmaster Yi, for saving my life. Thank you, Headmaster Yi, for allowing the Dark Moon clan to be passed down. I Tianqin, owe the Dark Moon clan. I am willing to make up for it today and lend you a hand." Anyue Tianqin bowed. The peak of the half-martial ancestor realm was not bad. What the crazy manor lacked was the upper echelons. Up until now, there were only Yi Mingxi, Yan Emperor, and Yi Qinghan in the ancestor realm. This and Yu Tianqin could easily reach the ancestor realm. Yi Qinghan had left him behind because he hoped that he could reach the ancestor realm. "You don't have to thank me. You can thank Dark Dance," Yi Qinghan said calmly. Yi Qingxing looked at Yu Tianqin awkwardly. After half a day, he ended up with the first-generation crown prince of the Dark Moon clan. Wouldn't his seniority be lowered? Yi Qinghan looked at Yi Qingxing and said indifferently, "Everyone has their own opinions. Anyue Tianqin is now either the crown prince of the Dark Moon clan or a member of the Crazy Manor." When Yi Qingxing heard this, he felt that since Yi Qinghan wanted to discuss things on their own, that would be for the best. "Boss, when are you going to get some progenitor realm energy source back? I also want to call myself ancestor for fun." Yi Qingxing rubbed his hands together and smiled sheepishly. Yi Qinghan also frowned a little. "This thing is not easy to get. I also got some progenitor realm ancestral rings, but there is no progenitor realm energy in them. I hope that the next batch of people who come to die will have some treasures. Crazy Manor is still lacking progenitor realm energy. I'm also quite anxious." Crazy Manor didn't have any progenitor realm experts, so he couldn't go into seclusion in peace to reverse the order of the sage's power. He couldn't covet the sage's power, and he didn't feel safe. It was a little unreliable to place his hopes on the Xianxing sage. Even if he could really help and block one sage, what about the remaining 7? Yi Qinghan pondered for a moment and said in a low voice, "You guys go ahead. I will go to the ancestral land of the Flame Clan and discuss with the Flame Emperor what to do next. We are almost at the end, and every step is extremely dangerous. If we fail, we will never be able to return. Alright, I will wait for you. When you get the progenitor realm energy source, the first thing you think of is me. I've been stuck at this realm for a long time." Yi Chenxing said excitedly. Yi Qinghan smiled. Everyone in Crazy Manor was equal. As long as they had the progenitor realm energy source, whoever reached that realm first would naturally have the right to enjoy the resources. Of course, enjoying the resources meant that they would have to go to the battlefield and fight against people of the same strength. The danger they would face would also be greater. But Yi Qinghan patted Yi Chenxing's shoulder and said faintly, "No problem. You should leave a seed for yourself first. It's not that I am pessimistic, but if you die, at least you will have an inheritance, right?" Dark Dance and Yi Chenxing smiled awkwardly. Yi Qinghan smiled and his figure flashed, leaving the star field and speeding towards the ancestral land of the Flame Clan. Currently, Flame Emperor was also coveting the sage's power. He didn't want to rely on the sovereign's power, but wanted to rely on himself. Since that realm existed, he was confident that he could reach it. His talent was a cut above others. Since he was an existence that attacked people's Dao heart in the early stages, he would do the same in the later stages. Flame Emperor sat cross-legged on the Human Emperor peak. For a long time, only Qi Yen and the Human Emperor sword accompanied him. If the 9-colored fan heart and the Flame Clan members couldn't be revived, he would rather die alone. Mu Zhuang, Gu Qingyu, Li Feng, Lin Wutian and the others of Crazy Manor often came here to seek the Dao, hoping that Flame Emperor could resolve their doubts. After all, Flame Emperor had already reached the pinnacle of Sword Dao. It wouldn't be a big problem for him to help them become progenitors. Flame Emperor didn't keep it to himself and was more than happy to help these people who had faith and were called progenitors. In these years, the Crazy Manor's Sword Dao experts had improved by leaps and bounds. They had adapted to fighting against progenitors and were getting closer to the progenitor realm. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan flew over and landed on the Human Emperor peak. Seeing the Crazy Manor's experts listening to the Sword Dao seriously, he didn't disturb them. Instead, he stood to the side and waited silently. After a long time, Flame Emperor explained many things to them. Everyone listened attentively and ignored Yi Qinghan's arrival. "Both of you are very talented, but you lack an opportunity. Now that the situation has changed, the Ancestor Realm isn't that special anymore, especially with the changes in the laws of nature. It will be easy for you to step into the Ancestor Realm. If Crazy Manor has 10 Ancestor Realm experts, and Manor Lord Yi and I become sages, we will have enough time to support one of us to break through to the Sovereign Realm. I believe that I can become a sovereign, and I believe that Manor Lord Yi will have the opportunity to do so. Let's see which of us reaches the Sovereign Realm first." Flame Emperor was confident that he didn't need the Sovereign's energy source to become a sovereign. Even sages wouldn't dare to have such confidence. Yi Qinghan nodded silently. Progenitors weren't as common as they used to be. At least, it wasn't like before when a secondary universe couldn't support the birth of many progenitors. However, when a secondary universe was formed, the energy produced by the progenitor realm wouldn't affect the secondary universe much. "Go back and think about my Sword Dao. I won't accompany you any longer." Flame Emperor looked at Gu Qingyu and the others and said calmly. At this time, a huge cloud-piercing arrow appeared in the north of Crazy Manor and exploded in the void. Then, cloud-piercing arrows appeared in the other regions to transmit the signal. Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed coldly and he said, "Someone is attacking the Crazy Manor. Follow me." Whoosh 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 whoosh. Yi Qinghan rushed through the void. Flame Emperor, Gu Qingyu, and the others didn't hesitate to follow with their swords in hand. There will be a live broadcast on QQ at 8:40 p.m. It involves many questions, including the new book. If there are any questions, ask them face to face. Everyone can participate. If there is a suitable plot, I will adopt it. If you have time, you can come and watch. Q number 1670046. Let me say this first. I am very ugly, the kind that reaches the depths of my soul. But if you see it, you are not allowed to say it. Even if you can't bear it, you have to hold it in. Chapter 2977. The northernmost part of the Crazy Mansion Immortal Empire, which was also the northernmost part of the ancient immortal world, was now called the Chitian region. It was the territory of the Chitian Monkey King. Experts were gathered there, and the army was in formation. The flag of the Crazy Mansion was swaying in the wind. Before the enemy appeared in the territory of the Insane Mansion Immortal Kingdom, the spy had already informed the Heavenly Monkey King. He had even sent out a messenger arrow, and the various regions responded accordingly. Every city in every region of the Insane Mansion Immortal Kingdom had sent out a messenger arrow. The experts of the Crazy Mansion unsheathed their swords without hesitation and headed straight for the Chitian region. The ancestral land of the Yen clan was close to the central north. Yi Qinghan, Yen Emperor, and the other experts flew through the air, riding the wind and breaking the waves. They instantly teleported to another big city. Chitian region, Monkey King Prefecture City. Flags were fluttering in the wind, and the barrier was shining brightly. The Chitian Monkey King held the startling sky staff and looked at the dozens of experts approaching. One of them was the Sky Sentinel Lord. He had brought dozens of followers with him, and his target was Yi Qinghan. Fortunately, they did not take the initiative to attack because the Sky Sentinel Lord wanted Yi Qinghan to surrender. "Open the city gates and let our lord in," the Sky Sentinel Lord's followers said coldly. The Sky Sentinel Lord was a middle-aged man. He was dressed in green and held the Sky Sentinel sword in his hand. He was definitely an invincible existence in the ancestor realm. He had accompanied the sage for many years, and he was imposing without being angry. His eyes were as sharp as lightning, piercing through the barrier and heading straight for the Chitian Monkey King. "The Sky Sentinel Lord has arrived. Why aren't you kneeling to welcome him?" Boom! A half-ancestor directly pierced a spear through the ground. His aura soared as he shouted at the Chitian Monkey King. Chitian Monkey King gripped his heaven-startling staff, exuding the might of a half-martial ancestor. His eyes were filled with the aura of a heaven-patrolling lord. "This is the Crazy Mansion Immortal Country, not your heaven. Have you all patrolled the wrong place?" His words almost choked the Sky Sentinel Lord and his followers to death. "Kid, do you know who you are talking to? As long as we are in this secondary universe, there is no sky that we cannot patrol." A half-ancestor rebuked. Chitian Monkey King retorted disdainfully, "Why don't you guys patrol the Saint Mountain for me to see?" Hiss! Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air and trembled all over. "You're courting death," the Lord Sentinel said coldly. Chitian Monkey King pulled out his cudgel and landed outside the Monkey King Manor, exuding a heroic aura. "One!" The heaven-shaking staff shook the void. "Roar!" Chitian Monkey King roared angrily and revealed his true form. His eyes were filled with flames as he looked down at the Lords of Sky Sentinel and said coldly, "Anyone can use their realm to suppress others. Lord of Sky Sentinel, I have said that you are patrolling the wrong sky. You shouldn't have come here." The corners of the Sky Sentinel Lord's mouth curled up as he looked disdainfully at Chitian Monkey King. With a wave of his hand, he coldly said, "Which half-martial ancestor will go and capture this vile creature? I will reward you with a piece of ancestor's origin energy." Boom! That a half-martial ancestor did not even hesitate as he stomped on the ground, drew his sword, and left. A sword rainbow soared into the sky as he appeared before the Heavenly Monkey King. Boom! Chitian Monkey King's body flashed as he easily dodged the attack. What followed was an earth-shattering cudgel. The might of the cudgel was even more terrifying than the heaven-shaking emperor. Currently, Chitian Monkey King was a half-martial ancestor. Even unranked ancestor realm experts were not his match. Bang! Boom! The heaven-shaking staff cut through the void and fiercely collided with the half-martial ancestor's sword. Sparks flew in all directions as the ground beneath his feet was crushed. This cudgel could shatter the heavens and the earth and startle the sun and moon. It directly sent the half-martial ancestor flying thousands of meters away. His physical body was shattered into pieces as his flesh and blood splattered everywhere. You can't even withstand a single blow. Boom! Chitian Monkey King's cudgel pierced through the ground and stabbed the heaven-shaking staff into the ground. He coldly looked at the Sky Sentinel Lord and said arrogantly, "I don't care which expert you are from. This is not the Sky Sentinel Heaven. The ancient immortal subworld is ruled by the Sage Mountain and my Crazy Manor Immortal Kingdom. You are the first person who dares to speak to me like this. Furthermore, you are a half-martial ancestor." The Sky Sentinel Lord looked at Chitian Monkey King maliciously as killing intent flashed in his eyes. Chitian Monkey King coldly replied, "I will definitely not be the last. This is the Crazy Manor Immortal Kingdom. It's not a place where you can behave atrociously. Do you think that Yi Qinghan can protect you? Once I defeat him, I'll see who else dares to go against me." The Sky Sentinel Lord said disdainfully. Chitian Monkey King said coldly, "You can't defeat him, just like how your subordinates can't defeat me." An old man beside the Sky Sentinel Lord had remained silent all this while. This was because he was an ancestor and his cultivation was not weak. When he heard Chitian Monkey King's words, he could not help but snort coldly. The Dharma logos of the Sky Sentinel Lord had changed. He was the Tao protector of the Sky Sentinel Lord and had followed him since he was very young. One could imagine his status. His name was Yuan Hong, and he was an ancestor. There is always someone better than you. How dare a vile creature like you speak like this? Let this old man teach you how to behave. Yuan Hong stepped out slowly with a terrifying might. Boom! Chitian Monkey King involuntarily took a step back from the pressure. However, with a twist of his toes, the ground cracked as he forcefully stabilized himself. He held the heaven-startling staff with both hands. Although he was not an ancestor, he was at the peak of the half-ancestor realm. It was not to the extent that he could not withstand an attack from an ancestor. "If you can withstand 3 moves from me, I'll spare your life," the ancestor said domineeringly. Buzz! Chitian Monkey King swung the heaven-startling staff and pressed it before his chest. He said quietly, "I'll take these 3 moves." 3 moves from a half-ancestor against an ancestor expert was an exaggeration. If Chitian Monkey King were to step into the ancestor realm, it would not be a matter of 3 moves. It was very likely that he would defeat his opponent in 30 moves. Although his realm was only half a step away, his combat strength was on a completely different level. Woo woo woo! Yuan Hong controlled the momentum with both hands as the spiritual energy in the world gathered into a palm print. Boom! Bang! The palm print tore through space and slammed toward Chitian Monkey King. Boom! Chitian Monkey King roared. Instead of retreating, he advanced and brandished his staff. Staff shadows overlapped as countless staff strikes struck the palm print that was speeding down from the sky. Bang! The palm print was indestructible and actually blocked Chitian Monkey King's attack. It forcefully suppressed the heaven-startling staff and slammed it toward Chitian Monkey King's body. In an instant, the void collapsed from Chitian Monkey King's stomp. The Earth's aura soared into the galaxy. Bang! Chitian Monkey King landed on the ground with his leg bones twisted. Chitian Monkey King roared and blocked the palm print. However, his opponent's aura was not over yet. With a flip of his wrist, Chitian Monkey King was sent flying and slammed into the barrier outside the Monkey King Prefecture city. Fight! The army of the arrogant prefecture roared and the war drums thundered for a long time. Bang! Chitian Monkey King landed on the ground. However, after slamming his palm on the ground, he immediately regained his footing. The ancestor's first move did not injure him much. An ancestor is only so. It's only 50% of my strength. If you can stand up in the next move, you can talk to me again, the ancestor said coldly. Boom! Chitian Monkey King crossed his hands and condensed his spiritual energy into a sword. The ancestor's sword appeared and stood above the sky. Its sword might was vast and mighty. First move, Sky Patrol. The sword brought with it towering flames and cut through the void. It slashed down from the sky and went straight for Chitian Monkey King's head. Boom! Cheetian Monkey King felt the aura of death and could not help but roar. The bloodline in his body awakened and he turned into a 100-feet-tall Monkey King. He held the 3,000-feet-long heaven-shocking staff and charged toward the sky. The sword and staff collided instantly and flames flooded the surroundings. The void collapsed and the ground caved in. No matter how stable the void was, it could not withstand such an impact. Hiss! The heaven-shocking staff broke. Although this sword was not the Sky Patrol sword, it was formed by an ancestor's spiritual energy. It represented the order of the ancestor's realm. After the ancestor's sword pierced through the heaven-shocking staff, it still pierced through Cheetian Monkey King's huge avatar. The avatar shattered and blood filled the sky. Cheetian Monkey King's body was like a kite with a broken string. He smashed through the barrier and almost caused the city walls to collapse. Boom! Cheetian Monkey King vomited blood and his body fell. He was almost killed by the sword. Chapter 2978. Blood nearly tore Cheetian Monkey King's true body apart as blood flowed like a river. The startling sky staff was broken. However, Cheetian Monkey King still struggled to stand up. Boom! Boom! Kwang Fu's war drums thundered as the army marched out of the city. Their war flags fluttered as they would not let their commander fight alone. Cheetian Monkey King's eyes flashed coldly as he waved his hand to signal for the army to retreat. He was stalling for time until Yi Qinghan arrived. If he were to fight now, this place would be destroyed. Progenitor Realm is really not as scary as I thought. Once I become an progenitor, I won't even need 3 moves to kill you. Cheetian Monkey King's voice was like thunder as he bellowed angrily. Hiss! Everyone gasped. Not only was Cheetian Monkey King arrogant, but his combat strength was also much more terrifying than a half-progenitor. No half-progenitor dared to say that he could take 3 moves from Yuan Hong Progenitor Realm. Yuan Hong Progenitor Realm was an old man who had followed the Lord Vigilant for countless years. He had received the Lord Vigilant's teachings and had 80% of the Lord Vigilant's strength. His first sword, Heaven Vigilant, had been blocked by Cheetian Monkey King. "Aunt, we'll talk after you become an progenitor." Yuan Hong was furious as he did not expect Cheetian Monkey King to still be standing. Cheetian Monkey King stepped on his own blood as he walked forward. He stared at Yuan Hong Progenitor Realm and said coldly, "Don't be arrogant now. Boss can kill you with 1 punch." Yuan Hong Progenitor Realm flipped the sword in his hand. Sword chi was like a rainbow as killing intent appeared in his eyes. However, he turned his head to ask for the Lord Vigilant's opinion. The Lord Vigilant nodded silently, acquiescing to Yuan Hong Progenitor Realm's killing intent. Seeing that the Lord Vigilant had made his decision, Yuan Hong Progenitor Realm's killing intent intensified as he said coldly, "Since you are so stubborn, I'll send you to the afterlife." The sword in Yuan Hong Progenitor Realm's hand soared into the sky as he gathered Order Dharma and logos with lightning. The sword of Heaven Vigilant intimidated everything. Second sword, Enforcer. Destroy Ant. Killing intent shot out in all directions as the ground shook. Yuan Hong Progenitor Realm's strength, wanting to kill Cheetian Monkey King. The Heavenly Monkey King could feel the thick aura of death. The order within his body circulated wildly, and his soul erupted to its limits. He could even clearly sense the laws and logos of the Ancestor Realm. At this moment, he could either break through or die. There was no third option. Roar! Cheetian Monkey King looked up to the sky and let out a long howl. Tens of thousands of spells followed suit, and the aftershock of the earth stirred up tens of thousands of waves. The surroundings were overflowing with divine light, and the ancestral might was vast and mighty. The injuries in his body were recovering rapidly. Ancestor Realm, success. Boom! The Order of the Progenitor Realm took the initiative to follow the Monkey King as it flowed through the Monkey King's limbs and bones. While the Progenitor Realm Monkey King was in the midst of his breakthrough, his aura suppressed Yuan Hong's Progenitor Realm aura to the point of stagnation. Boom, 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 dong, 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 the earth-shaking drums rumbled, and the war flag of the Kwang Manor swayed in the wind, making the atmosphere even more imposing. Swish! The 300,000-strong army stepped out of the prefecture city and got into formation. They wanted to buy time for the Heavenly Monkey King to stabilize his footing in the ancestor realm. They weren't afraid of death. Boom boom boom. The heavy-armored infantrymen moved in unison. Their heavy shields formed a huge circular shield that shone brightly. 30,000 divine crossbows were aimed at Yuan Hong's ancestor realm. Fire! The deputy commander did not even think about it. With a wave of his hand, the giant crossbow shattered the void. Tens of thousands of arrows shot out in unison, wave after wave, forming 3 waves of arrow rain. The might not be able to kill a high-level ancestor, but it was not a problem to block him for a moment. Boom! The killing intent of Yuan Hong's ancestor realm grew even stronger. With a slash of his sword, he shattered all the arrows that were coming at him. The heavy-armored infantrymen staggered, and cracks appeared on their heavy shields. Countless battle spears spun at high speed like spirals, cutting through the ancestor realm's energy and heading straight for Yuan Hong's ancestor realm body. Kill! Yuan Hong was furious. With the law enforcement of the Sky Survey sword technique, his sword shattered thousands of miles, ruthlessly smashing the incoming battle spears. Following that, the sword chi swept toward the 300,000-strong army of the Kuang Manor. The sword chi was too strong, and it was definitely not something that could be resisted by those below the ancestor realm. However, since this army was able to guard the border, they were definitely not simple characters. Back then, when the first-grade Sovereign Realm army expanded, it formed such an army. This army was created by the Divine Bird. The 300,000-strong army combined into one, and the tip of their feet crushed the ground. Everyone was using all their strength to reinforce the heavy shields and barriers. Boom! The barrier shook when the ancestor realm collided with it. However, it only lasted for a moment before the barrier shattered. The sword chi blasted on the heavy shields, and the huge circular shield actually emitted ancestor realm's might. The internal order blocked 70% of the ancestor realm's strength, and the 300,000-strong army blocked the remaining 30%. Boom! Kakaka! The ground cracked. Yuan Hong's third sword had failed, but it had shattered the heavy shields. All of the shields were reduced to rubble. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Boom! The army held the immemorial wolf spears in their hands, and although blood flowed from the corners of their mouths, their eyes were resolute as they stood in front of Chitian Monkey King. The deputy commander rushed over from the sky and landed in front of the army. If someone were to die, he would be the first to die. As the commander said, "You can't patrol the sky of the Kuang Manor." The deputy commander was an old face of the Kuang Manor, Yunru. He took out the immemorial wolf spear in his hand and roared, "Victory for the Kuang Manor." This was just a city's army, but it had such an imposing aura. The overall strength of the Kuang Manor Immortal Kingdom could be seen. Dao ancestor Yuan Hong's aura stagnated. The power of a city had blocked him, and the key was that Chitian Monkey King had stabilized himself in the ancestor realm. Chitian Monkey King did not absorb too much of the ancestor realm's order because he did not want to see anyone from the Kuang Manor die. Therefore, he stood out and looked down at Yuan Hong's ancestor realm. He said proudly, "Thank you for allowing me to step into the ancestor realm. Let's fight again at the same level. Let's see if you can patrol the sky." Boom! Chitian Monkey King opened his palm and gathered his aura into a staff. The laws of the ancestor realm intertwined as if he had been in the ancestor realm for a long time. His aura was even stronger than Yuan Hong's. Fight! The army of first-grade supreme martial artists retreated 300 steps not because they were afraid, but because they believed that the older generation of the Kuang Manor would not be defeated. 3 moves. You'll block them. Chitian Monkey King stared at Yuan Hong and then turned into a staff that shook heaven and earth. Boom! Chitian Monkey King soared into the sky, and his staff covered the sky, wanting to split the world. Boom! Bang! Chitian Monkey King's speed was too fast, and he directly slashed at Yuan Hong's ancestral sword. The ancestral sword shattered, and Yuan Hong's aura stagnated. His body was sent flying into the distance like a kite with a broken string. Whoosh! Yuan Hong slid several hundred meters on the ground before coming to a stop. He coughed out blood continuously. Chitian Monkey King's aura was too strong, and it actually suppressed his aura. The main reason was that Chitian Monkey King had blocked 2 of his moves when he was a half-ancestor. Cough, cough, cough. Yuan Hong coughed out blood and took out his origin sword. He stared at Chitian Monkey King coldly. This is only the first move. Chitian Monkey King's aura burst out once again. His name was not undeserved. His eyes flickered with golden light. This staff no longer seemed to be shocking, but breaking the heavens. Gotcha! Chitian Monkey King's feet crushed the ground. His aura was like a rainbow as he swept his staff across. The laws of the world followed, and his killing intent soared. 4th move, Law Annihilation. Boom. The origin sword pierced through the rainbow and ruthlessly pierced the heaven-shocking staff. Rays of light shone brightly, and the aftershock reached the dome. The aura in the direction of the Monkey Manor was actually blocked by Chitian Monkey King. Boom. The Chitian Monkey King's physical strength was almost comparable to Yi Qinghan's, and he forcefully blasted Yuan Hong 3,000 meters away. This time, his aura surged even more violently, and he spat out a large mouthful of essence blood. Yuan Hong was completely defeated. Roar! At this moment, the Sky Sentinel Lord made his move. The moment he attacked, he used the Sky Sentinel Sword. The sword's momentum was too fast, and it went straight for Chitian Monkey King's throat. Chapter 2979. The Lord Sentinel suddenly attacked with his sword. He was very powerful to begin with. Although he was 20% stronger than Yuan Hong, this 20% represented the limit. It also represented the pinnacle of Dharma and order. It represented the transcendence of combat strength. Boom. The Lord Sentinel's sudden attack caught Chitian Monkey King off guard. He blocked the sharp sword with his staff, but his body was sent flying. He crashed into the army and sent dirt flying. "Ant, since you want to die, I'll send you on your way." Whoosh. The Lord Sentinel soared into the sky with his sword aura. Whoosh. Boom. Just as lightning flashed and thunder rumbled, 2 figures appeared in the sky and attacked the Lord Sentinel from the front and the side respectively. Bam bam bam. Boom. Yi Qinghan kicked the Lord Sentinel's abdomen while the Flame Emperor punched the Lord Sentinel's waist. The Lord Sentinel's retribution came too quickly. He had just launched a sneak attack on Chitian Monkey King but was ambushed by Yi Qinghan and the Flame Emperor. His organs were almost shattered and he was sent flying. His blood stained the sky. Boom. Yi Qinghan was not satisfied with his kick. He rose into the air again and punched through the void, landing a direct hit on the Lord Vigilant's chest. The Lord Sentinel coughed out blood again and his sword almost fell from his hand. Bam bam bam. Boom. Yi Qinghan's punches fell like raindrops. "Does it feel good? Does it feel good?" Yi Qinghan roared angrily. The Lord Sentinel did not have time to retaliate and was heavily injured by the duo's sneak attack. After receiving so many punches from Yi Qinghan, his breathing stagnated and he almost suffocated to death. Just as Yuan Hong and the rest were about to attack, the Flame Emperor unsheathed his Emperor's sword and stared at them coldly. They did not dare to make a move. Yi Qinghan gave the Lord Sentinel a hard slap and sent him to the ground. If not for the sage behind him, Yi Qinghan would definitely kill him. However, killing the Lord Sentinel now would definitely provoke the sage. "Motherfucker, Sky Patrol? Are you patrolling my head?" Yi Qinghan sent the Lord Sentinel flying with a kick and said angrily, "Luckily you didn't kill anyone today. Otherwise, I would have ripped your head off." Hiss. The followers of the Lord Sentinel sucked in a breath of cold air. Even Yuan Hong did not make a move. If they angered Yi Qinghan, this group of people would all die here. At that moment, the Lord Vigilant was completely powerless. The order and vitality in his body were dispersing. There was no chance for him to continue fighting. "You sneak attacked me." The Sky Sentinel Lord bared his teeth and roared in anger. "That's right, I ambushed you. But what were you doing half an hour ago? Wasn't it still a sneak attack? What can you do to me even if I give you peak combat power? I can beat you to death." Don't think that you can patrol the skies just because you have the sage Feng Yu behind you. If you want to patrol the skies, do it on your own land. Don't come to my head. Otherwise, if I'm in a bad mood one day, I'll beat you to death, Yi Qinghan replied coldly. The Lord Sentinel Lord was almost angered to death. However, he had nothing to say because he was the one who attacked first. You know about the sage. You're provoking the sage. The Lord Sentinel Lord struggled to stand up and threatened coldly. Yi Qinghan responded with a slap that sent him flying again. The sage should be respected, but you're not the sage. If you have the sage behind you, do you think I don't have the same? Using the sage to threaten me? I think you're tired of living, Yi Qinghan replied coldly. Even if there was no sage behind him, Yi Qinghan would still brag a little to scare the Lord Sentinel Lord. He did not want to give the Lord Sentinel Lord the impression that he did not dare to kill him. If he angered Yi Qinghan, he would really kill him. The Lord Sentinel Lord was stunned. To think that he had forgotten the purpose of his visit. It seemed like the sage's name was really scary. Chitian Monkey King walked over. His injuries were not serious. Coupled with the fact that he had entered the ancestor realm, his strength was superb and his recovery speed was fast. Boss, I'm fine. The army is fine too. Chitian Monkey King heaved a sigh of relief. He had profited from a disaster and became the third ancestor realm of the Insane Manor. Of course, the Flame Emperor was not from the Insane Manor. He was just himself, the guardian of the Flame Tribe. Even though the Flame Tribe had been defeated, he was still determined to revive the Flame Tribe and his beloved. Yi Qinghan nodded his head and looked at the Lord Sentinel Lord. He said coldly, "Since my brother is fine, I'll give you a chance. Apologize to my brother and scram." How could the Lord Sentinel Lord apologize to others? With the sage behind him, no one dared to kill him. Therefore, he raised his head and looked at the sky in disdain. Yi Qinghan clenched his fist and said coldly, "You can be arrogant and refuse to apologize. However, I'll beat you until you apologize. If you don't want to embarrass yourself, you'd better apologize now." The Lord Sentinel Lord's breath stagnated as he glared at Yi Qinghan. If not for his injuries, he would definitely fight it out with Yi Qinghan. However, Yi Qinghan's sinister gaze caused his blood to freeze. He did not dare to provoke Yi Qinghan anymore. The Lord Sentinel Lord went silent and refused to apologize. Boom. Yi Qinghan stepped towards the Lord Sentinel Lord. His aura was dark and murderous. "There's a limit to my patience," Yi Qinghan said in a deep voice. The Lord Sentinel Lord gripped the Sky Sentinel sword. Unfortunately, the wound on his waist was throbbing with pain. The blood in his chest and abdomen could not flow smoothly. There was no way he could fight. "I'm sorry." The Lord Sentinel Lord gritted his teeth and said, "Don't take my words as a joke. You can't afford to say sorry to my brother." Yi Qinghan reminded him coldly. The Lord Sentinel Lord took a deep breath. His sinister gaze was filled with murderous intent. "I'm sorry." The Lord Sentinel Lord changed his gaze and stared at Chitian Monkey King. His murderous intent flashed and disappeared. He suppressed it. Yi Qinghan and Chitian Monkey King both snorted. The progenitor was not scary. The sage was the scary one. The Lord Sentinel Lord did not have the time to unleash his peak combat strength. However, even if he did, he still defeated Yi Qinghan. In another 10,000 years, he might not even be able to defeat Chitian Monkey King. Therefore, Yi Qinghan did not take him seriously. However, Yi Qinghan did not kill the Lord Sentinel Lord. It did not mean that he would not take revenge on Yuan Hong. "Old man, you're bullying Crazy Mansion with your cultivation level. You should have the courage to take a punch from me, right?" Yi Qinghan turned and stared at Yuan Hong with murderous intent. Yuan Hong's fingertips trembled. The ancestral sword in his hand trembled. He grunted. No matter how weak he was, he could still take a punch from Yi Qinghan. "Then please enlighten me. I'd like to see how strong Crazy Mansion's Mansion Master can be without launching a sneak attack," Yuan Hong replied coldly. Yi Qinghan made a grabbing motion with his bare hands. The power of order was attached to him and then reversed to form a reverse 5 elements boxing glove. He clenched his iron fist and the veins on his right arm bulged. This attack was definitely his strongest attack. Boom! Yi Qinghan stomped the ground. His figure turned into lightning and filled the sky. Boom! Whoosh! Yi Qinghan's punch had reached the limit of the progenitor realm. It shattered the void and ruthlessly attacked Yuan Hong. This punch was not meant to scare but to kill. Yuan Hong used all his strength. The power of the progenitor realm poured out from the ancestral sword and ruthlessly stabbed at Yi Qinghan's fist. Boom! Ka-ka-ka! The huge sword rainbow formed by the sword chi was smashed into powder by this punch. The iron fist collided with the ancestral sword and the ancestral sword broke like rotten wood. The momentum was not over yet and it collided with Yuan Hong's right fist. Ka-ka-ka! Yuan Hong's right arm was shattered into powder by this punch. Flesh and blood splattered everywhere. Yuan Hong spat out blood. His entire right arm turned into nothingness. His body was like a kite with a broken string. He was sent flying for more than 100 miles and crashed into a mountain. The mountain peak collapsed. Yuan Hong's life force was completely reversed and turned into death chi. Following that, a reverse 5 elements power swept into his sea of consciousness. A progenitor realm expert died on the spot. It was not that Yuan Hong was weak, but that Yi Qinghan was too strong. The star-profound sage had allowed him to comprehend the small universe for so long. It was still useful. It was just a punch, but it had reached the limit of Yi Qinghan's strength. Hiss, hiss, hiss. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. The fear and despair in their eyes were self-evident. The void distorted and did not recover for a long time. The world fell into a dead silence. However, a moment later, the war drums of Crazy Mansion rumbled and shook the sky. The war banners flew into the sky. Chapter 2980. Yi Qinghan did not hold back at all in his peak attack. It was obvious that he wanted to kill Yuan Hong. However, his wish came true. His right fist's bones were broken and his flesh was badly mangled. The price he paid was huge. However, it was enough to intimidate the half-crippled Lord Sentinel. Moreover, Yan Emperor had yet to make his move. Hiss, who? Lord Sentinel inhaled a few breaths of cold air as he stared at Yi Qinghan's right fist. His entire right arm was covered in blood and his battle robe was torn apart. In order to kill him, you actually used an uncontrollable power. The Lord Sentinel's heart was filled with hatred. To him, Yuan Hong was like the 9 serenities lord to Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan was indebted to him, and he was like a father and a brother to him. Now that Yuan Hong was killed, how could he not hate him? Yi Qinghan said coldly, he deserved to die. It's also a warning to you. Next time, Sage won't be able to protect you. Good. Yi Qinghan, I finally get to know you today. We'll meet again in 100 years at most, Lord Sentinel said coldly. Yi Qinghan sneered and said quietly, you can leave if you want to. Give me 2 balls of progenitor energy origins and take everyone away. If you don't leave behind 2 balls of progenitor energy origins, I'll help you kill this group of people. Lord Sentinel looked at his followers. Many of them were from wealthy families in the Sky Sentinel subrealm. He could not afford to lose them. Once he lost them, who would follow him in the future? Left with no choice, Lord Sentinel could only leave behind 2 balls of progenitor energy origins. They were considered low middle grade. It was difficult for a half-martial ancestor expert to reach the progenitor realm. Therefore, he handed them to Yi Qinghan without worry. Whoosh! Lord Sentinel waved his hand and took away all the Taigu Emperor and half-martial ancestors. Yan Emperor stared at Lord Sentinel's eyes as he watched him leave. He said calmly, if we don't get rid of him, he'll be a huge threat in the future. Sigh, Yi Qinghan sighed softly. He wanted to kill Yuan Hong, but he would have to face Sage. He did not care about 3 to 5 progenitor realm experts. However, if he faced 30 to 50 of them, Crazy Manor would not be enough. Let him live for 100 years. When I fully comprehend Sage's power, he'll be the first one I kill, Yi Qinghan said in a deep voice. The Flame Emperor looked at Yi Qinghan calmly and asked, did you gain anything from your trip to the Saint Mountain? Yi Qinghan nodded and did not hide anything. With a wave of his hand, he took out the energy given to him by the Xianxing sage and held it in his palm. He said, "This is the energy given to him by the Xianxing sage. The power of the sage is nothing more than this. Once you understand this energy, you will be able to see more than 50% of the sage's power." Yan Emperor did not stand on ceremony. Yan clan's ancestral land. It's the center of Crazy Manor Immortal Kingdom. We can support all sides at any time. Yi Qinghan nodded. Then he reorganized Crazy Manor Immortal Kingdom's forces. He handed the two energy sources to Gu Qingyu and Mu Zhuang. Yi Qinghan mobilized all the half-martial ancestors and progenitor realm experts of Crazy Manor to guard the 13 regions. Lu Feng, Chu Shijun Xian, Mu Zhuang, Lin Wuyan, Gu Qingyu, Anyue Tianchen, Shirgu, Li Peiza, Yichengxing, Hualing Tian, Green Lotus Sword Fairy, progenitor realm experts Yi Mingxi and Heaven's Equal Monkey King. Zhou Shuguang, Jiang Jingtian, Huang Peng, Su Zhan, Li Feng, Feng Huang, Mo Li, Wu Yan, Stan Wuxie, Di Long Tian, Bosson Wu, Li Shang, Yichen Tian, Desolate Lord Yi, and more than a dozen others assisted the 13 half-martial ancestors and progenitor realm experts to forge the insane mansion Immortal Kingdom into a steel wall. Emperor Yi, Jian Chenxue and Bai Shaoxing were all in the Heaven Suppressing Palace. They helped Yi Qinghan with all the miscellaneous matters. Yan clan's ancestral land, Human Emperor Peak. Yi Qinghan and Yan Emperor sat opposite each other. The sage's power hovered between them. Their palms touched. The sage's power connected their palms. Both of them could touch the sage's power order. Not everyone could comprehend the sage's power with just a ball of sage's power. Only people as talented as Yi Qinghan and Yan Emperor could deduce the complete sage's power with just a drop of sage's power. But even if they wanted to deduce the complete sage's power, even if they could only control 50 to 60% of it, it would take them 100 years. But others might not even give them 100 years. For example, the immemorial Yin Yang, Lord Sentinel, Monster Lord and Tao Ancestor. There were also some sages' disciples or direct relatives. They were all incredibly strong. But most importantly, no one dared to kill them. The 9 sages, Xian Xing Great Sage, Fang Yu Sage, Ancestor Turtle Sage, Qian Yixue was the only female sage so far. One had to admit that she was very strong. Their disciples or direct relatives had all appeared. Even if the sages were no longer interested in the sovereign's power source, they would still be interested. Seizing the sovereign's power source would mean becoming a sage. They would be able to rule over a region and even pursue the sovereign's power. In the ancient immortal subrealm, many experts suddenly appeared. Some of them were even stronger than the 3 Tao ancestors. But they were all unfamiliar. They were the sage's people. They usually did not interfere with the mortal world. But now, they were born because of the sovereign's power. In the Heaven Suppressing Palace's district, Supreme Yi stomped his feet and glared at the sky. I am a fish on the chopping block. Damn it. Am I destined to be refined? Why can't I become a sovereign myself? Supreme Yi was helpless. He crossed his legs and mumbled to himself. He could not go anywhere in this place. What? Supreme Yi's eyes brightened. He slapped his thigh and cursed, "Damn it! Why did I forget?" As the saying goes, the pavilion closest to the water enjoys the moonlight first. I am the sovereign's power source. Why should I let others devour it? This autarch can also become a sovereign. The more Supreme Yi thought about it, the more he felt that it was right. He sat on the ground and scratched his head. But how could he become a sovereign? Study himself? I'll go ask Father. Xiao, Supreme Yi's figure flashed and rushed towards the chaos heavenly domain. Jian Chenxue had to put down everything and chase after him. The chaos heavenly domain was now empty. Even the huge mountain was gone. The chaos heavenly domain was only an empty shell. The Father Divine Bird was gone, and so was the natural order and Dharma logos of this place. But the ancient immortal world did not even react. When Supreme Yi appeared in the chaos heavenly domain, he was stunned. He looked at the empty space and felt like he was dreaming. Slap. Supreme Yi slapped himself hard. Oh damn it. Am I dreaming? Father moved? Supreme martial artist Yi muttered to himself in surprise. Xiu. What? Jian Chenxue appeared in the chaos heavenly domain and looked at everything in front of her. She was also confused. Where's your father? Where's the chaos heavenly domain? Where's the mountain in the chaos heavenly domain? Jian Chenxue asked. I arrived one after the other. If you ask me, who should I ask? Supreme martial artist Yi asked speechlessly. Both of them were stunned. They did not know how to explain everything in front of them. The chaos heavenly domain was the sky of the ancient immortal world. The sky was gone, and there were no signs in the outside world. The natural order laws here did not exist. Jian Chenxue took a deep breath. This was not something an ordinary person could do. The primordial yin-yang could not do it, and Yi Qinghan could not do it either. Quickly inform my husband. This is not a small matter. Something big might happen, Jian Chenxue said immediately. Chapter 2981. On the human emperor peak, the two experts' divine senses enveloped the dark star sage's energy, which was filled with the sage's order and dharma and logos. If one wanted to use the sage's power, one must first understand the sage's order and dharma and logos. The sage's order and dharma and logos were extraordinary and difficult to understand. Even the two geniuses could not understand this energy in a short time, especially Yi Qinghan. Even if he could understand it in the future, it would be even more difficult for him to reverse the dharma and logos. The two cultivated for more than a year and only had a little clue when Jian Chenxue and Supremacy Yi appeared. Yi Qinghan sensed Supremacy Yi and Jian Chenxue's aura and opened his eyes slightly. Seeing the anxious look on their faces, he had no choice but to stop cultivating. Yen Emperor was also alarmed. He opened his eyes and held up the energy order. What's wrong? Yi Qinghan asked curiously. Boss, the chaotic heavenly domain is gone. My father seems to have moved, Supremacy Yi said seriously. Yi Qinghan and Yen Emperor looked at each other. The heavenly Tao had moved. What a joke. Husband, the divine bird is not joking. The chaotic heavenly domain that I went to with him was empty. There was not even a trace of dharma and logos. It was just chaos. It was even more exaggerated than the heavenly domain. Even the highest mountain was gone. It disappeared mysteriously. There was no news. Jian Chenxue immediately explained. Supremacy Yi might be joking, but Jian Chenxue definitely would not. The chaotic heavenly domain was the sky of the ancient immortal world. If the sky was gone, could it have been stolen? Let Brother Yunbei investigate this matter. Inform us when the results are out, Yi Qinghan said in a deep voice after pondering for a moment. Yen Yunbei's realm was still that of the Taiga Emperor, but his combat strength was at the peak of the half-martial ancestor realm. His assassination techniques were superb, not inferior to the ancestor realm expert that Yi Qinghan had killed. There was no problem in investigating this matter. Yi Qinghan believed in Yen Yunbei's ability. Okay. Jian Chenxue nodded and said. Whoosh! Jian Chenxue immediately retreated, leaving Supremacy Yi with a sneaky face. Why do you want to go to the chaotic heavenly domain? Didn't you say you didn't want to see your father's face again? Yi Qinghan looked at Supreme Martial Artist Yi in surprise. He realized that there was something wrong with his expression. The Supreme Yi laughed foolishly and said with a flattering smile, Boss, do you think I have a chance to enter the sovereign realm? Since I'm a sovereign's quintessence, if I were to gain sentience and become a sovereign, wouldn't everything be fine? Yi Qinghan and Yen Emperor were stunned. This fella has already become a spirit. If he becomes a spirit, wouldn't he be heaven-defying? You want to comprehend your own laws of order and become a sovereign? Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed as he asked in a low voice. Sovereign Yi nodded repeatedly and said firmly, I really don't want to be refined. Instead of being refined by others, why can't I become a ruler myself? Yi Qinghan and Yen Emperor glanced at each other and then nodded. If one of their own became a sovereign, reviving some people shouldn't be a problem. No matter how shameless this fella was, he wouldn't turn his back on them. You can try, Yi Qinghan said seriously. Supreme Yi spread out his hands and said helplessly, I don't know where to start. I originally wanted to ask my father, but this fella didn't even inform me in advance that he was moving. Yen Emperor shook his head and said with certainty, he definitely isn't moving. No one would act recklessly. His foundation is in the ancient immortal world. Moving out of this place won't do him any good. Yi Qinghan also felt that this was a little strange. If he could even throw away the primal chaos heavenly domain, wouldn't he be a laughingstock if word got out? Human Emperor Peak was silent for a long time. Yi Qinghan stretched out his hand and touched Sovereign Ye's head. His spiritual sense roamed through Sovereign Ye's limbs and bones. This was just a life with flesh and blood. He couldn't sense the Sovereign's energy source. The Sovereign's energy source had already fused with Sovereign Ye's flesh and blood. Right now, other than himself, no one could use their spiritual sense to sense the Sovereign's energy source. Unless they refined him and made him one with him, then they could immediately become a sage. I'm unable to help. You can slowly search for it. I don't have any methods, Yi Qinghan said honestly. Yen Emperor also tried, but he couldn't sense any Sovereign's energy source. It was just flesh and blood. The Sovereign's energy source had already fused with Sovereign Ye's flesh and blood. Yen Emperor let out a turbid breath and shook his head. This time, I really can't help you. You can only rely on yourself to find it. Sovereign Yi laid lazily on Human Emperor Peak and looked at the sky in boredom. Yi Qinghan and Yen Emperor didn't have much time left. Therefore, they ignored him and started to comprehend the sage's power again. Seeking Heaven Domain. A sage stood in the void. It was Zhang Daoling. He wasn't in a hurry to interfere. He wouldn't interfere in the matters of Ancestor Realm unless a sage intervened. He tore the Chaos Heavenly Domain apart slightly and was taken aback when he saw the Chaos Heavenly Domain. He didn't expect the Chaos Heavenly Domain of the ancient immortal world to be gone. This wasn't something an ordinary person could do. The disappearance of the Chaos Heavenly Domain of the first region might have no effect on Immemorial Sovereign and those above it, but it had a greater impact on those below Immemorial Sovereign. It would be difficult for anyone to step into that realm again, unless they left that region. Who did it? So vicious? Sage Zhang Daoling stepped into the Primal Chaos Heavenly Domain and looked around, muttering to himself. It seemed like even the sage didn't know what was going on. Is it the sage? I think he must be bored to do such an immoral thing. Isn't he afraid that the Sovereign's origin energy won't recognize him? Zhang Daoling was speechless. Ancient Immortal Subworld, Purple Sun Subworld, Sky Patrol Subworld. The three subworlds were vast and boundless. They formed a huge fan shape and revolved around the primal universe seeking Heaven Domain. 17 years later, in a small restaurant in the Purple Sun subrealm, a sloppy old man was drinking cheap wine. His beard was dirty, and his small eyes were looking around sneakily. Many adventurers were eating wine and meat, bragging about their achievements. They were all praising themselves as if they were gods. The old man said cheekily, "You bunch of trash. You have nothing better to do and only know how to brag. Aren't you afraid that the wind will hurt your tongue?" Smelly old man, are you asking for a beating? A burly man slammed the table and stood up. Little trash, do you know who this old man is? How dare you spout nonsense? Even the sage would have to show me some respect. You actually want to beat me up? The sloppy old man smiled evilly. Everyone was speechless. They looked at the skinny old man. A gust of wind would probably blow him away. He was even better at bragging than them. But now, a pair of eyes were staring at the old man. If people from the ancient immortal world were here, many would recognize this young man. Yan Yunbei. He had spent 17 years chasing the old man from the Qiu-Tian region of the ancient immortal world, from the ancient immortal subrealm to the Purple Sun subrealm. This old man seemed to have deliberately lured him here. That was why he had left many traces along the way. The disappearance of the Primal Chaos Heavenly Domain had a lot to do with this old man. Yan Yunbei didn't say much. He just drank silently and ate while watching the old man's performance. The dagger in his sleeve was ready to be unsheathed. Chapter 2982. Yan Yunbei drank and ate while looking at the old man from the corner of his eyes. He didn't know what the old man wanted to do and why he wanted to lure him here. In the hall, the old man and the adventurers were cursing at each other. If they weren't in the city, they would have started fighting. You brats, just you wait. You even dare to scold this old man. Be careful that you don't steal your wife when you return home. The old man was obviously teasing them. The adventurers glared at the old man. They wished they could tear his old face apart. Yen Yunbei wasn't sure if it was this person who took away the primal chaos heavenly domain. If it was, he would definitely take it back. Therefore, he didn't dare to alert the enemy. This old man can't be a sage, right? Yen Yunbei muttered to himself. However, he quickly erased this thought. He really couldn't think of a sage who would be so bored as to go to a secondary world to steal someone else's primal chaos heavenly domain. Soon, the adventurers got up and prepared to leave. The old man also stood up and picked up the tattered oil paper umbrella on the table. Then, he took out a ball of energy from his bosom. *Pa. *Bill. The old man directly placed the energy source on the table and said to the waiter. Yen Yunbei spurted out a mouthful of wine. The energy source that the old man took out was none other than the progenitor energy source that he had been looking for everywhere. He actually used the progenitor energy source to pay the bill. Those adventurers were clearly experienced and knowledgeable. This was the progenitor energy source. Moreover, it looked very rich and priceless. At this moment, they were also stunned by the old man's aura. Even the owner of the small inn was scared out of his wits. He looked at the progenitor energy source with a face full of desire. However, he was even more helpless because he couldn't afford such a large sum of money. I can't afford it. Esteemed Lord is treating me like a lowly commoner. Even if I take this thing, I won't have the life to enjoy it. Why don't you waive the bill? The owner was a middle-aged man. He was able to see very far. He couldn't afford the progenitor energy source. At this moment, Yen Yunbei said faintly, "Put his food and drink on me." Qua. Yen Yunbei took out some money that could be used in a secondary world and threw it to the owner. You really know how to conduct yourself. Could it be that you knew that this old man didn't have money to eat today, so you followed me all the way here? The old fellow picked up the progenitor stage energy source and put it back into his bosom. He raised his head to look at Yen Yunbei in the private room and joked. Yen Yunbei smiled faintly and said, "Esteemed master, you are a wild crane that does not care about ordinary money. Since you have no money to pay, I naturally have to do my best. Brat, you have good eyesight. I can see that your bones are amazing, a rare cultivation base. Why don't you follow this old man?" The old man wiped his mouth and laughed. Yen Yunbei smiled. To be able to steal the entire chaotic heavenly domain without anyone noticing, he was not a simple character. There were 360 professions, and every profession had its own master. This saying was indeed true. To be able to steal to this extent was already the limit. I'm not interested in stealing, but I'm interested in thieving heaven. I'm just afraid you won't be able to steal it. Yen Yunbei stared at the old man and said calmly. The old man laughed evilly and asked directly, "Since you think this old man can't steal from the heavens, why did you follow me to 2 subworlds?" Yen Yunbei clenched his fist and gestured with his hand. "Esteemed master, why don't we have a private chat? If you want something, you can tell me directly." The old man smiled and walked out with the oil paper umbrella. He did not look like a sage, but he could steal the chaotic heavenly domain. It had to be said that it was exaggerated. Yen Yunbei did not hesitate and immediately followed him out. The two left the city. The old man didn't say anything. He just quietly followed the burly men all the way to a few luxurious mansions. Wah! Whoosh! The old man's figure flashed and directly entered the luxurious mansion. After an incense stick's time, he slipped out. The luxurious mansion was emptied. All the precious treasures, money, and even a dozen beauties were lost in the old man's alternate space. "Let's go, let's talk." The old man waved his hand and said straightforwardly. A moment later, angry roars came from the luxurious mansion. It was a mess. However, Yen Yunbei was not interested in these things. The chaotic heavenly domain was lost. What could be lost in these mansions? The two walked all the way to a mountain range. The old man crossed his legs and held a blade of grass in his mouth. He looked like a traveler. "Boy, why are you following me?" The old man accused Yan Yunbei and asked with a sidelong glance. The corner of Yan Yunbei's mouth twitched. He replied speechlessly, "Esteemed master, I should be the one asking you. You came all the way to the ancient immortal subworld, stole the chaotic heavenly domain, and deliberately led me here. You're not playing with me because you're bored, right? Hey, don't slander me and insult an old man like me. When did I steal your chaotic heavenly domain?" The old man frowned and asked, "Did you see me steal your chaotic heavenly domain with your own eyes? Where's the evidence? If there's no evidence, I'll sue you for slander." Yan Yunbei's breath stagnated and he touched his forehead. This old man's strength was obviously not ordinary. If they really fought, he would not be a match for him. "Old mister, what do you want? This chaotic heavenly domain should not be important to you. Why do you have to make things difficult for us juniors?" Yan Yunbei smiled bitterly. The old man grinned. He was so sloppy that he looked like a madman. "I heard that you have the sovereign's origin energy. Do you want to exchange it with me for your chaotic heavenly domain?" asked the old man. Yan Yunbei looked at the old man speechlessly. This old man had come for the sovereign's origin energy. "Since you stole the chaotic heavenly domain, why didn't you find the prefecture master directly? Why did you lead me here alone?" asked Yan Yunbei. "Your prefecture master is a little sick. I'm not a sage. I'm afraid my old bones can't take a punch from him." The old man smiled. This old man had seen the conflict between Yi Qinghan and the Lord Sentinel. The key was that Yi Qinghan did not notice him. "It's not that I want to flatter you, but my prefecture master is no match for you," Yan Yunbei said frankly. The old man smiled and said indifferently, "Doesn't he have a monster by his side? I'm afraid of him. As the saying goes, know yourself and know your enemy, and you'll be victorious in 100 battles. I've heard about their battle records. One of them is Emperor Yan, who will one day ascend to the top and become a man even in the heavens. The other is an existence that defies the 5 elements. If the two of them work together, only a sage would dare to fight them head-on." Yan Yunbei felt that this old man was not here for the sovereign's origin energy. He must have other goals. "You don't have to think about the sovereign's origin energy. Why don't we get straight to the point? You can ask for other things. If I can agree, I won't frown," Yan Yunbei said in a low voice. "Then you should take in a master." The old man's eyes flashed. He bared his teeth and said, "I'll train you to be an ancestor, and an extremely powerful one at that. We can work together to steal something from the 9 sages. I've been eyeing something for a long time, but I don't have the chance now. I can't do it alone, and the others are useless. Only you can do it." Yan Yunbei rolled his eyes. He was speechless. Chapter 2983. This wasn't the first time Yan Yunbei had been forcefully taken in as a disciple. However, this time, their specializations were compatible. One was the king of thieves, the other was the king of assassins. Both of them together seemed to be more exciting. "First, tell me who you are and what you want to steal." Yan Yunbei stared at the old man. This person's identity had yet to be confirmed. He had to be more careful about what he wanted to steal. If it was the lifeblood of a sage, then even if he succeeded, the 9 sages would chase him out of the universe. The old man bared his teeth, almost all of them falling out. At this moment he was extremely careful. It wasn't easy to steal from the sage. If Yan Yunbei wasn't a member of the Crazed Manor and the sage wasn't keeping an eye on the Crazed Manor, he wouldn't have dared to lure Yan Yunbei here. "I've forgotten my real name. You can call me Ultimate Saint Thieving Heaven. I have a hobby, which is to steal supreme treasures. For example, progenitor realm sources, dominator energy sources, and the mysteries of dominators. Those sages have studied the dominator realm for a long time, so they must have some insights. However, they keep their insights to themselves and won't let them out. They hide them in their dojo. If we can get the insights of the 9 sages and go to the 3rd planet's Jade Court Sacred Realm to steal the mysteries of the primal universe, It'll be hard for us not to become a dominator. The old man grinned. Yen Yunbei looked at this ultimate saint thieving heaven. He felt that he had seen this expression and tone before. After a long time, Yen Yunbei whispered, "You're really similar to Divine Bird Sovereign Yi and his father." Sovereign Yi? That dominator energy source? Ultimate saint thieving heaven grinned. Obviously, he had already asked around and knew all the important people of the crazy manor. Yen Yunbei didn't hide anything and said, "I can promise you, but you have to return the primal chaos domain first. Also, give me some progenitor realm sources. I don't need much, 30 pieces will be enough." Ultimate saint thieving heaven rolled his eyes and said angrily, "Do you think this old man is begging for the primal chaos domain? The progenitor realm sources in my hands are all top grade. The ones I use as money for meals are all rubbish. Including that piece, I don't even have 30 pieces." Yen Yunbei said firmly, 25 pieces no less. Besides, what can you do with the progenitor's energy source? Obviously, Yen Yunbei was doing this for the benefit of Kuang Manor. 25 pieces meant that Kuang Manor could give birth to 20 ancestor realm experts or even more. At that time, Yi Qinghan and Yen Huang would become sages. Kuang Manor would then be in an invincible position and Yi Qinghan would not be restrained. Not that much. Extreme Saint Thieving Heaven said wretchedly. Yen Yunbei sneered and said, "You're the ultimate saint of thieving heaven. You stole the chaos heavenly domain, but you still can't steal 25 pieces of progenitor realm origin energy? This progenitor realm energy source is nothing to you, but it's very important to my Kuang Manor. If you help me this time, I'll help you steal what you want next time." "No problem, 25 pieces it is. But you have to introduce Yi Qinghan to this old man so that we won't fight in the future." Extreme Saint Thieving Heaven said seriously. Yen Yunbei looked at Extreme Saint Thieving Heaven's serious expression and muttered in his heart. This guy approached Yi Qinghan. If it was to steal Sovereign Yi, it wouldn't be good. I don't believe that you can steal the divine bird from old Yi." Yen Yunbei's eyes flashed and he said, "No problem, you go get the progenitor's energy source. I'll return to Kuang Manor first. We'll gather at Human Emperor's Peak of Yen Clan. At that time, you can return the Chaos Heavenly Domain and find me at Human Emperor's Peak." Extreme Saint Thieving Heaven nodded and threw a cloth bag to Yen Yunbei. It was obviously not an ordinary cloth bag. It was filled with progenitor's energy source. There were about 15 to 16 pieces. "There are 16 pieces here. Take them first. We'll gather at Human Emperor's Peak. This old man won't let you down." Whoosh! Whoosh! Extreme Saint Thieving Heaven's figure flashed and disappeared without a trace. Yen Yunbei took the cloth bag and carried it on his back. This thing was very advanced. His yin and yang ring couldn't contain it at all. This old man is very ambitious. He's willing to put in a lot of effort to steal something. It seems that he's not only planning to steal the sage's knowledge, but also Sovereign Yi. With the sage's knowledge and Sovereign Yi's knowledge, he might be able to find a way to become a sovereign. Yen Yunbei was shocked. He carried the cloth bag and left. At this moment, Yi Qinghan and Yen Emperor were comprehending the sage's power. Light shone in all directions. Only Sovereign Yi and Crimson Flame were still on Human Emperor's Peak. Since they'd started comprehending until now, the two of them had never left the Human Emperor's Peak or stopped comprehending. On this day, they'd finally awoken. In 23 years, Yen Emperor had comprehended some of the sage's power. He could easily cut open the void with a wave of his hand. This was the sage's power. He had about 10% of it, but less than 20%. Yi Qinghan had comprehended about the same amount of power, but what he had comprehended was clearly different dharma and logos. Even if there were overlapping dharma and logos, it was not much. If the two of them shared their insights, it was estimated that in a few years, the two of them would be able to fully control 20% of the sage's power. The two looked at each other and retracted the sage's power. Then, they crossed their hands and shared all the laws and orders they had comprehended with each other. The power of the sage was too difficult to comprehend. If not for the fact that both of them were monstrously talented, They would have only been able to comprehend a little more than 10% in 30 years, and definitely not 20%. The two merged with each other's laws and orders. The light shone even brighter. Monstrous holy light shrouded human emperor's peak. At this moment, Sovereign Ye's body resonated. Sovereign Ye flipped over and opened his eyes. He looked at Yi Qinghan and Yen Emperor. A light flashed in his sea of consciousness. However, it was too fast and blurry. He couldn't see the true sovereign's power. The sage's power was too little. Yi Qinghan and Yen Emperor were both cultivating and comprehending each other's insights. They didn't notice the sudden change in Sovereign Yi. Supreme Yi scratched his head and muttered to himself with a frown, "Why did that power flash so quickly just now? If it was slower, I might have been able to see it. I can't tell anyone. What if they used the sage's power to stimulate my power? Wouldn't the sovereign's power come out? I'll definitely be refined. Even boss might be forced to refine me. I'm destined to be the sovereign. How can I be refined by others? Not even boss. I'm a man of flesh and blood." Sovereign Ye's face turned pale. He looked at Yi Qinghan and Yen Emperor. These two were monstrous talents. They really had a chance to become sovereigns in the future. And the foundation of becoming a sovereign was his body of flesh and blood. Human nature was capable of doing anything in times of despair. If Yen Emperor had no hope of becoming a sovereign, he would definitely fall out with him. Yi Qinghan was no exception. When there was no other way, he could only sacrifice himself to help the rest of insane manner. Chapter 2984. Sovereign Yi muttered in his heart. At this moment, he didn't want to trust anyone. He wanted to borrow Yi Qinghan and Flaming Emperor's comprehension of the sage's power to stimulate the sovereign's origin energy in his body. Once he grasped the sovereign's power, he would be able to transcend. Yi Qinghan and Flaming Emperor were comprehending each other's insights at the same time. Both of them didn't hold back and handed over the power of the sage's laws and principles to each other. The power they controlled began to approach 20% of the profound star sage's power. On the human emperor peak, Qi Yen, multicolored snake, little golden crow, star twining vine, god-devouring eagle, venomous bug, and other spiritual pets all benefited and stood firmly in the ancestor realm. The mother-child venomous bug's poison was extremely vicious and could instantly kill an ordinary ancestor realm expert. Several spiritual pets bathed in the sage's power. Sovereign Yi stared at the power emitted by Yi Qinghan and Flaming Emperor. The inexplicable power in his body was slowly recovering, but it was too slow and weak. It was almost negligible. Sovereign Yi needed time. At this moment, Yi Qinghan needed more time. The power that the profound star sage had given him only represented a portion of the profound star sage's power. Even this portion of power had taken him nearly 30 years to comprehend 20% of it. He still had a long way to go to become a sage. During the 30th year of Yi Qinghan's comprehension of the sage's power, Yen Yunbei returned from the Purple Sun subrealm to the ancient immortal subrealm. He shuttled back and forth continuously while carrying a cloth bag. He encountered dozens of obstructions but managed to escape safely. Yen Yunbei escaped with a body full of injuries and more than 10 ancestors' energy sources. His body was covered in blood. He didn't dare to stay any longer and rushed towards the human emperor peak. Whoosh, whoosh. Yen Yunbei's speed was fast to the limit. After suffering dozens of obstructions for many years, his cultivation had increased a lot and was infinitely close to the ancestor realm. He might not need the energy sources to step into the ancestor realm. Sovereign Yi was the first to notice Yen Yunbei's arrival and stood up immediately. Whoosh, whoosh. Yen Yunbei landed on the human emperor peak. His face was pale and he was panting heavily. "Damn, are you being chased by a dog?" Sovereign Yi looked at Yen Yunbei's sorry state and asked in bewilderment. Yen Yunbei bitterly smiled. He laid on the ground and rested for half a day before standing up. "In order to find your father, I was almost killed, and you are still making sarcastic remarks." Yen Yunbei said speechlessly. Supreme Yi immediately asked happily, "Have you found that old fellow?" Yen Yunbei exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. He wiped off the blood and sweat on his face and said hoarsely, I found it. It was stolen by an old man. Stolen? Who could steal the primal chaos heavenly domain? Is this guy a sage? Supreme Yi jumped 3 feet high, feeling very strange. Phew, Yin Yunbei sighed and looked at Yi Qinghan and the Flame Emperor who were still bitterly cultivating. He did not explain too much. However, on the second day Yi Qinghan and the Yen Emperor woke up. Both of them were equally talented and had comprehended each other's insights at the same time. Yi Qinghan looked at Yen Yunbei's miserable appearance and could not help but ask, "Brother Yunbei, who attacked you? Why are you in such a sorry state?" "That evildoer from the primordial Yin-Yang era found out about my location and invited many people to attack me together, hoping to use me to threaten you. Along the way, my progenitor realm energy source was exposed, causing even more people to surround and attack me. That's why I'm in such a sorry state now." Yen Yunbei casually took out the cloth bag on his back and said, "Fortunately, I didn't disappoint you. I found the primal chaos heavenly domain and brought over 10 ancestor realm energy sources. The quality is not bad and should be enough for some people in the crazy manner to advance to the ancestor realm." Yi Qinghan reached out and took the cloth bag. He found that the bag contained a universe and was very unusual. Most importantly, there were 16 or 17 ancestor realm energy sources of rather good quality inside. This was equivalent to 16 or 17 ancestor realm energy sources. "Where did you get so much ancestor realm energy sources?" Yi Qinghan asked in shock. Yen Yunbei smiled and said truthfully, "That ultimate saint thieving heaven who stole the primal chaos heavenly domain gave it to me. He's a slovenly old man. He wanted me to help him steal some of the sage's cultivation insights and treasures. Therefore, we came to an agreement. He gave me 25 ancestor realm energy sources and I worked together with him to steal the sage's items." Yen Emperor and Yi Qinghan could not help but be shocked. Someone could actually steal from heaven? This was too inconceivable. How did he manage to take away the chaotic heavenly domain without anyone noticing? Also, did you agree to go to the sage's land to steal the treasures? That's too risky, Yi Qinghan said in a deep voice. Yen Yunbei shook his head helplessly and said bluntly, "I don't know how he stole the primal chaos heavenly domain for now, but I definitely have to agree to his request to steal the sage's items. After all, I'm not his match. If he wants to kill me, I won't be able to escape. Even if he doesn't kill me, I won't be able to take back the primal chaos heavenly domain, let alone so many ancestor realm energy sources." Yi Qinghan understood the sage's power. This was definitely not something an ordinary person could do. This was gambling with one's life. What about ultimate saint thieving heaven? Yi Qinghan frowned. He was unwilling to let Yen Yunbei take the risk. This kind of risk had no chance of survival. There was simply no need to do so. Yen Yunbei replied, "He doesn't have enough ancestor realm energy sources. Now, I don't know which major force he's going to steal the ancestor realm energy sources." Yi Qinghan and Yen Emperor looked at each other and shook their heads at almost the same time. The two of them didn't dare to steal the sage's items unless ultimate saint thieving heaven was stronger than the two of them combined. He could even exchange blows with a sage expert or even forcefully break out of the encirclement and escape. At this moment, a trace of fluctuation appeared in the void. Following that, a sloppy old man appeared in front of everyone. It was ultimate saint thieving heaven. "Hee, fortunately, I didn't disappoint you." Ultimate saint thieving heaven held more than 10 ancestor realm energy sources in his hand and said with a grin, "Little Bay, Master didn't disgrace you, right? 14 ancestor realm energy sources, all of them are of good quality. I went to the Purple Sun subrealm and stole them from more than 10 of the most powerful ancestor realm residences. They are all sages, people with deep family backgrounds and extraordinary strength. However, I was able to take away their most important things right under their noses. Now, believe me." Yi Qinghan, Yen Emperor and the rest opened their mouths wide as they looked at ultimate saint thieving heaven in shock. Sovereign Yi subconsciously ran behind Yi Qinghan and stared at ultimate saint thieving heaven in disbelief. He was afraid that this old man would steal him away too. Ultimate Saint Thieving Heaven licked the corner of his mouth and looked at Sovereign Yi behind Yi Qinghan. He bared his teeth and gestured with his hand. "Hey, little guy, come over to Grandpa. I'll give you something good." Sovereign Yi rejected without hesitation. Yi Qinghan stretched out his hand and summoned Sovereign Yi, allowing him to transform into his original form and hide in his bosom. He looked at Ultimate Saint Thieving Heaven vigilantly and snorted, "I want to know how you stole the Primal Chaos Heavenly Domain." Yen Emperor was curious, Yen Yunbei was curious, everyone was curious. After all, the Primal Chaos Heavenly Domain wasn't a thing. Chapter 2985. Apart from Extreme Saint Thieving Heaven, everyone would be interested in how he stole the Primal Chaos Heavenly Domain. After all, it wasn't something an ordinary person could do. Extreme Saint Thieving Heaven had a sinister smile on his face. It was really damaging to his prestige as an ancestor. Especially when he was so old, no one could guess what he was thinking. "Abode Lord Yi, can you share with me your cultivation experience and the heaven-defying Tao you're most adept at?" Extreme Sage Thieving Heaven didn't answer Yi Qinghan's question and instead asked a question of his own. Yi Qinghan was stunned. Wouldn't telling Extreme Saint Thieving Heaven such a thing be equivalent to giving him his fatal weakness? Yen Emperor had a good relationship with him, but he had never shared his cultivation experience and cultivation technique with him. Even his children didn't receive such treatment. It wasn't that he didn't believe it, but he was worried that it would be leaked. Obviously, Extreme Saint Thieving Heaven didn't want to share his secret. "Hee, you know you don't want to. Let's put ourselves in your shoes. Even a disciple has to hold back, let alone you and me." Extreme Saint Thieving Heaven landed on the Human Emperor peak and slowly walked towards Yi Qinghan. His expression was very strange, making Yi Qinghan involuntarily vigilant. "Mansion Lord Yi, I've been looking forward to meeting you for a long time. You really live up to your reputation. Nice to meet you. Since I'm free today, why don't we have a drink?" "What?" Extreme Saint Thieving Heaven extended his hand towards Yi Qinghan's right hand. Although it looked casual, it actually contained the art of Thieving Heaven. He had never failed to steal anything he wanted, even under the eyes of an expert. Bang! Boom! Yi Qinghan waved his hand to stop Extreme Saint Thieving Heaven's hand. The two were as fast as lightning, but Extreme Saint Thieving Heaven quickly separated and said with a smile, "Mansion Lord Yi is in a good mood. You actually brought such a small toy with you." "What?" Ultimate Saint Thieving Heaven took out two sculptures. They were extremely lifelike sculptures that he carved in his free time for the sake of meditation. The sculptures of Emperor Yi and Jianchen Xue were so lifelike that they looked like real people. The carving technique was almost at the Mahayana level, and every trace was of uncanny workmanship. Yi Qinghan frowned. These two sculptures were hidden in his ancestral ring. This Extreme Thieving Heaven saint actually stole them without his permission. This was simply inconceivable. Yi Qinghan subconsciously touched Sovereign Yi, who was in his arms. When he realized that Sovereign Yi had not been stolen, he could not help but heave a sigh of relief. "How did you do it?" Yi Qinghan asked in surprise. Thieving Sky Extreme Sage bared his teeth and smiled, "You don't even give me face for shaking hands. I'm not familiar with you, so why should I tell you?" The Flame Emperor was also shocked. Stealing something from the ancestral ring under his and Yi Qinghan's eyes was not something an ordinary person could do. Fuck! Yi Qinghan cursed in his heart. He knew that Thieving Heaven Saint's understanding of space had reached the pinnacle and was even comparable to a sage. He definitely used space to enter his ancestral ring and steal the two sculptures. If he could open the ancestral ring without the owner's permission, then he could enter the great world within his body without permission. Yi Qinghan involuntarily took a few steps back and maintained a safe distance from Thieving Heaven Saint. What? The Flame Emperor also retreated. He simply could not trust someone he could not control. Thieving Heaven Saint proudly said, "There's nothing in this world that I can't steal." "Then why do you still need my help?" Yen Yunbei asked. Thieving Heaven Saint was speechless and said in a muffled voice, "A sage is not an ordinary person. I need your cooperation." Your concealment technique is so good and your control of aura has reached the pinnacle. As long as you break through to the ancestor realm and train with me for a period of time, you will be able to take on great responsibilities. I'm looking for you because I think highly of you. I've roamed the secondary universe for countless years and have seen all kinds of people. You should be honored. Yan Yunbei smiled bitterly. He did not want this kind of honor. Yi Qinghan stared at Thieving Heaven Saint and pondered for a moment before asking, "Have you returned the primal chaos heavenly domain?" Thieving Heaven Saint shrugged and said calmly, "Of course, I have no use for it." Yi Qinghan breathed out a mouthful of turbid air and reached out to ask for the sculpture. However, Thieving Heaven Saint did not intend to take it and casually threw it to Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan kept it in the ancestral ring and stared at Thieving Heaven Saint thoughtfully. He did not want Yan Yunbei to joke with his life, but since Yan Yunbei had agreed, he could only choose to take the risk together. Yi Qinghan stared at Thieving Heaven Saint and suggested, "Thieving Heaven Saint, since you want to steal a sage's item, the two of us would also like to give it a try. However, I don't have the ability to steal. Teach us and when the time comes, we'll split the stolen item equally or make 4 copies. How about it?" The Flame Emperor immediately said, "There's strength in numbers. The two of us aren't useless and can at least cover your escape." Thieving Heaven Saint smiled evilly, "I thought you guys were gentlemen. Who knew that you guys are even more straightforward than this old man? In order to survive, I have never defined myself as a gentleman." Yi Qinghan said calmly. "Since that's the case, let's cooperate. However, I've trained you guys. How will you repay me?" Thieving Heaven Saint asked with a grin. Yi Qinghan sneered and replied resolutely, "Since it's a cooperation, everyone is helping each other. What's there to talk about repayment?" Wanting to take advantage of Yi Qinghan was almost unrealistic. Thieving Heaven Saint rolled his eyes and stared at Yi Qinghan. He said in bewilderment, "Seems like you're stingy. The 3 of us will risk our lives to accompany you to steal a sage's item. In your eyes, we're stingy?" Yi Qinghan asked back. All right. I won't argue with you guys. I'll give you the 25 pieces of ancestor energy that I promised Yan Yunbei. However, if you guys aren't willing to pay, I won't give you any more. Originally, this old man wanted to give it all to you. Now that I think about it, I'll save it." Thieving Heaven Saint casually threw out some ancestor energy sources and kept the rest in his clothes. Supreme Yi snorted in disdain and said in disdain, "If you're stingy, just say so. Don't flaunt yourself like a great sage. You should keep the rest of the ancestor energy sources to recuperate. Don't even think about coveting my energy sources." Thieving Heaven Saint's eyes widened as he said in disdain, "Little guy, sooner or later, I'll see how many eggs you have. There's no need for you to see. Let me tell you, I have one more than you," Supreme Yi said with an evil smile. Thieving Heaven Saint curled his lips and said impatiently, "Let's cut the crap. Within 3 years, I'll teach you some profound truths about space. I don't dare to say much, but it's still very easy for you guys to take away the things inside the ancestor ring without the owner's permission. However, it's only limited to people below half ancestor. You guys have to cultivate for 30 to 50 years for the ancestor ring." Yi Qinghan touched the corner of his mouth. He really wanted to know how Thieving Heaven Saint did it. Chapter 2986. Human Emperor's Peak. Even if they were working together, Yi Qinghan and the others could not trust this ultimate saint of thieving heaven, especially Yi Qinghan. "I'll first hand over the progenitor realm source to the commanders of the many border regions of Kuang Manor. You guys can communicate with each other first." After Yi Qinghan finished speaking, he left Human Emperor's Peak with Supreme Yi and the progenitor realm source. Star domains Yi Chenxing, Ice domains Li Peiza, Solitary Sky domains Gu Qingyu. At the borders of the 13 large regions, almost every region took 2 pieces of progenitor realm source. Yi Qinghan did not keep a single piece. He gave them all to the older generation of Kuang Manor, including Mu Zhuang, Shirgu, Green Lotus Sword Immortal, Jiang Jingtian, and the others who were at the limit of the half-martial ancestor realm. Chitian Monkey King himself had entered the progenitor realm, so he saved a piece and evenly distributed it to the 13 regions. If there was a miracle, these 25 pieces of progenitor realm source would mean that 25 progenitor realm experts would be born. In addition to Yi Mengshi, the multicolored snake god-eater eagle, and the star-twisting vine, this meant that Kuang Manor had enough progenitor realm experts. Many of the older generation experts of Kuang Manor, including the second generation Lin Shukong, Yi Chintian, and Desolate Lord Yi, the third generation Lin Mo, Yi Tong, and other experts, had all entered seclusion. Chess Saint and his son, Void Saint Chess, controlled the military. They each led tens of millions of troops to patrol the central regions of the major regions. It was not easy for anyone to break into the interior of Kuang Manor. However, when the secondary realm was formed, there were countless experts. It was easy to stop ordinary people, but it was obviously not easy to stop the best of the progenitor realm. There were many people who wanted Supreme Yi, and many of them were the direct descendants or disciples of the sages. They were all ready to make a move, and a portion of them began to quietly pounce on Kuang Manor. Primordial Yin Yang was a cunning person who would not personally make a move. Instead, he gathered experts from all over the place to fight for Supreme Yi. He would only watch from afar. If he had the chance, he would definitely tear off a large piece of flesh from Kuang Fu. Yi Qinghan sensed danger, so he didn't immediately return to Human Emperor's Peak. Instead, he patrolled the border regions and discovered that many people were using the guise of traveling and doing business to sneak into the Celestial Nation. The area controlled by Li Peiza and Mu Zhe was separated by more than 10 million miles. It was not realistic to want to control every place, especially the border between the two domains. It was a land of death and was extremely dangerous. Later, due to the merger of the secondary universes, it had become even more dangerous. Few people came here, and only a few adventurers would come here to look for treasures. However, this place was also named the Divine Land of Myriad Treasures. Yi Qinghan stood in a hidden area of the Divine Land of Myriad Treasures and watched as some powerful adventurers led teams to shuttle through the Divine Land of Myriad Treasures. They were not afraid of death and wanted to find good treasures that could make them rich. Many people died due to the attacks of powerful monsters, and many died without a complete corpse. Their corpses were directly devoured by the monsters. However, the adventurers came and went, not caring at all. Riches and honor were found in danger. Some experts even brought their families and brought the younger generation to this place to train. It was crazy. Yi Qinghan stood in the void and stared at a group of people. They looked no different from the adventurers, but in his opinion, this group was clearly not adventurers. This was because the weakest among them was the Taigu Emperor, while the strongest was a top-notch ancestor. There were 13 or 14 of them, and their movements were capable and swift. Their goal was not the Divine Land of Myriad Treasures. These people are from other subrealms, right? Aside from the Sage Mountain, there shouldn't be such experts in the ancient immortal subrealm. The people from the Sage Mountain shouldn't have come here sneakily. If the profound star sage wanted to snatch it, he would have done so long ago, Yi Qinghan muttered to himself. Supremacy Yi looked at everyone wretchedly and kept nodding. I think so too. Why don't we bury them here? No one will know anyway. First, investigate their identities. If they are the sons of the sage, won't we be asking for trouble if we kill them here? Yi Qinghan frowned. Let's follow them and see what they want to do. Whoosh, whoosh. The strongest person in the group was a middle-aged man. He waved his hand and signaled for them to hide in the depths of the crazy mansion Immortal Kingdom. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. There were a total of 13 people. All of them left the Divine Land of Myriad Treasures and headed towards the center of the Immortal Kingdom. Yi Qinghan silently followed behind. As long as this group of people didn't act recklessly, he wouldn't casually kill people. After all, times had changed. No rules was the biggest rule. If he could kill people without restraint, the sage would naturally be able to retaliate without restraint. Looking for trouble wasn't Yi Qinghan's style. In the Qitian region, outside of the Monkey King Prefecture, a group of 1,000 people appeared. Their battle banners fluttered in the wind, and they looked majestic. Along the way, Nobody dared to attack them. Although there were only 1,000 people, including the servants, there were only a little over 1,200 people. At this moment, a middle-aged man walked out of the group. He was wearing a long green robe, with big eyes and a square face. My young master, Yen Wang, is here to visit the crazy mansion Immortal Kingdom under the orders of the Purple Sun Second World's great sage. City Lord, please open the door. The middle-aged man, Li Zixiong, clasped his fists and said. Chi Tian Monkey King had long gone into seclusion and Yun Rui was in charge of the army. Yun Rui looked at the group of people. They were the great sage's men and they were here under his orders. This was a diplomatic mission and it would be inappropriate to reject them. For Yun Rui to be able to control the army, he must be very smart. He pondered for a moment and summoned a captain. He whispered to the captain, "Send someone to inform the military to escort this group of people to the heaven-suppressing palace." Understood. The captain general left at once. Yun Rui waved the war flag and the city gates opened. He leaped forward, clasped his fists and said, "I am the commander of the crazy mansion Immortal Kingdom's Qitian region, Yun Rui. Greetings, Lord Yen Wang from the Purple Sun Second World. Please follow me into the city to rest. I have already sent someone to inform the military to escort you to the heaven-suppressing palace." Li Zixiong looked at Yun Rui and retreated to the center of the group. He bowed and said, "Lord Yen Wang, shall we enter the celestial nation directly? I am here to visit the crazy mansion's mansion master, not to cause trouble." The person in the carriage calmly said, "Yes, Lord Yen." Li Zixiong immediately retreated and came before Yun Rui. He clasped his fists and said, "Thank you, General." Yun Rui led the group of people into the city and arranged a place for them to stay. All that was left was to wait for the military to arrive. The military was quick to find people. The captain quickly found the chess saint and informed him of everything. The chess saint already knew what the saint meant. He did not dare to delay and immediately sent one of his most capable commanders, Zhang Jing. One of the 3 commanders back then, Wu Ming, died in battle and the mystic skeleton was heavily injured. Zhang Jiang managed to escape and was still the commander. Zhang Jiang, go find the mansion master and tell him to gather in the heaven-suppressing palace. The chess saint's eyes flashed. The heaven-bestowed sage actually sent a group of people to visit the crazy mansion. There must be something going on. Thus, he had to meet Lord Yen personally. Zhang Jiang immediately led a group of 30,000 elites to the human sovereign peak. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.